is running for his life, and hopefully find some daylight. That's not gonna go very far. But Jordan Love, I told people this. I saw the kid when he played at Utah State. I said, this, that Packers program, this kid's going to be pretty good. And he got off to a slow start, and they sort of, you know, tempered how much risk he took in the first quarter or two.
Yeah.
But then he sort of started to come into his own.
Second half, they went downfield.
Yeah, well, exactly. It'd be nice to see Justin Fields try to stretch the field a little bit, too, although you need the assets to do that. But something about Jordan Love, I don't know if people saw that he wears this I am second bracelet. And this is what that means.
And nothing changes on you. What's that bracelet say?
I am second.
I am second, meaning?
Meaning God is first. I'm second. It's a nice little daily reminder. Kind of, I look at it as a way to put others first, put God first. Life's not always about you. Every day, sometimes people get caught up in their own lives. Sometimes it's a nice little reminder to have.
The anti-Colin Kaepernick.
I like it, and I really like it. I like the guy. Immediately, the guy becomes one of my favorite ball players.
Yeah. And how did Belarus win? Or
look, I'm a soccer fan, and no one gives two figs. But being a soccer fan in Chicago, being a Fire season ticket holder, is kind of like being a Bear fan, except worse.
Why is that?
No one gives two figs.
Oh, why are they not good, or
the team could?
I don't know.
All the team could get COVID and have to wear masks and run around in circles and collapse.
They could do human sacrifices at midfield for all we care.
One cares.
Yeah, no one is.
Right.
Doesn't matter. You know what's interesting though, just on the Jordan Love piece for a second. Tony Dungy, one of the other big sports occurrences this weekend was that Coco Gauff winning the U.S. Open, right?
Yeah.
Underdog, American, and they have a picture of her essentially on her knees after she won, praying, right? And ESPN's capture of that picture is Coco Gauff after winning, taking it all in, letting
taking
it
in the moment,
taking in the moment,
right.
And Tony Dungy, of all people, Tony Dungy, the great football coach, tweets in, ESPN, heads up, what she's actually doing. You may not want to admit this, but what she's actually doing is like praying, like she's thankful.
Why?
She's expressing gratitude.
Why can't they see it? Why can't they admit it? Why can't they mention it? Is an indicator of where they all are, where they've been led to, and how they've locked the gates of heaven behind them.
Yeah. Well, I just thought that was interesting. Those two moments were interesting. I mean, or those two athletes are interesting because of that and the moment that Coco Gauff had as well. Anyway, even though I'm not I haven't really watched tennis since
Rod Laver.
It's been a little bit before that, or a little bit after that. But
Djokovic,
it just wasn't. Djokovic wins again, so like
7, 8 times. Or
so that was a good moment too. Aaron Rodgers' favorite tennis player, Novak Djokovic. And then you got. We're doing a little sports roundup here,
right.
But then you got Coach Prime, as he's been rebranded in Colorado. That's rocking college football. Do you pay attention to these things?
Weekend?
Oh, jeez.
I didn't even what. Did they win?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
It's the biggest story in college football, and you're not paying attention?
No, I don't pay attention to the minor leagues of the NFL because all it is a meat grinder for the NFL to have bodies to destroy.
Are you still clinging to this notion? Didn't you write?
Are you going to bring up Rush Limbaugh saying that I was a liberal sports writer from Chicago?
No, I
did. After that column,
is this the end of football column?
Yeah, I said it would. I said football would be like tractor pulling or something, like monster trucks.
And is it like an Al Gore prediction? Is it like has already passed the time where football was supposed to be extinct, according to you?
It's past the time when I was relevant about talking about football. Yeah.
You thought the concussion thing was going to end football.
I thought moms would. I thought mothers would kill it because they wouldn't allow their kids to play it, but they did. They were marketed by the NFL. They were marketed. It became a betting thing. Mom's bet.
Moms want sons
moms
to get
want
full
this.
rides.
Moms want
so
sons
they don't have to pay
get
for
full rides. Moms bet. Moms like all the glitz, and the NFL won and survived. But how many human brains are left in the pathway? I don't know. I'm not going to venture that.
Colorado won.
I'm still going to watch it.
Colorado
they did?
won. Yeah. They blew out Nebraska.
Nebraska.
I mean, Nebraska's not the. I mean, you probably thinking Nebraska from the Tom Osborne.
Johnny Rogers.
Yeah, that's not the Nebraska of today. But they were only a 3-point favorite, and they won by 22. So there's going to be more prime hype. Maybe you start to tune in.
Is Carlton Fisk gonna go to Colorado and plant the flag at the 50-yard line for Deion?
Carlton Fisk. What's the
Carlton
Carlton Fisk Deion Sanders connection?
The great catcher of the White Sox.
They both use Just for Men?
No, he was behind. He was catching a game. I don't know if they do it, but he was catching, and Deion refused to run out a pop fly. And Carlton Pudge said, "Run out the damn ball, or the next time I see you here, I'll kick your ass."
Really?
And that became a big thing in the dugout, the Yankees dugout, and they got upset. And you know who they got upset at?
Deion Sanders.
Deion. Like, how dare you diss Carlton Fisk, you punk?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So you do have some sports anecdotes.
Anything you want to know about Gilthorpe? I'm your man.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Do you want your child to come back from school hating God, America, and you? If the answer is no, the solution is St. John's Lutheran School in Lombard. I am the man, Cal. Look, I'm a Christian guy with 2 daughters out in this world, and it can get very scary. St. John's Lutheran School Lombard is the only school in all of Illinois that offers the Hillsdale College curriculum for kindergarten through 8th grade. It's a game changer, a nurturing environment with a Christian faith, traditional values, and critical thinking that teaches kids to think for themselves, not what to think. What a great thing to do for your child or grandchild. Strong academics with the Hillsdale curriculum and strong character. Go to stjohnslombard.com. That's Saint, S-T, johnslombard.com. stjohnslombard.com. It's in Lombard, Glen Ellen, Wheaton, Downers Grove, and all places nearby. stjohnslombard.com.
Discover Chicago Build Expo, the Midwest's largest construction and design show, officially supported by the Mayor of Chicago. Join us at McCormick Place on October 11th to 12th. Connect with 25,000 plus attendees, including contractors, architects, realtors, engineers, developers, and government officials over 2 jam-packed days. Gain industry insights from 400 plus top speakers across 12 conference tracks and AIA CES approved workshops. Meet 250 plus exhibitors as they showcase the latest innovations and products revolutionizing the industry. Experience the biggest festival of construction with fully immersive experiences, a tasty food and drinks trail, captivating competitions, DJs and live performances, and the Architects Hub featuring visionary projects. Celebrate inclusivity at the largest networking events for the Midwest for women in construction and diversity in construction. Secure your free tickets at chicagobuildexpo.com now. We can't wait to see you there.
If you're leaving Illinois and purchasing a home in the state you're relocating, then you need to call Team Hochberg, your trusted local lender. Selling and packing up your home, buying a new home, and working with a lender you don't know can be extremely stressful, but it doesn't have to be. My loan officers can originate loans in 46 states, and I have relationships with lenders who could help you secure a mortgage in the 4 states we're not licensed. Team Hochberg's originated thousands of mortgages for listeners relocating, and we'd love to help you. Don't be pressured by out-of-state realtors to use their preferred lender. You're purchasing the home, and it's your decision who originates your mortgage. So tell the realtor to relax and that Team Hochberg is originating your loan. If you're relocating and would like to get pre-approved to purchase a home, call Team Hochberg now at 855-56-DAVID or visit 56david.com. That number again is 855-563-2843 or visit 56david.com. Lower.com, equal housing lender, MLS 112-4061.
When this is the sound of a crackling campfire on a cool evening, you can sit back and relax. But when it's the sound of your counters and cabinets smoking and smoldering following a house fire that's affected your entire kitchen, you need to pick up the phone and call 1-800-SERVPRO. Only the cleanup and restoration specialists at ServPro can help make fire and water damage like it never even happened. So make the call to 1-800-SERVPRO when fire damage strikes. Franchises are independently owned and operated.
Hi, I'm Test Director Rick from ServPro, the leader in cleaning, restoration, and construction. It's my job to make sure our pros are prepared for anything. Storm damage? Fixed. Flood damage? We're on it. Fire damage? Not anymore. Aliens? What? Aliens? We cleaned those sites a while ago. No matter the disaster, our pros will make it like it never even happened. Find out why ServPro is the #1 choice for residential and commercial restoration projects large and small. Visit servpro.com today.
AM 560, The Answer.
The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. The Bears still suck. The Bears still
Dan
suck.
and John Cass in for Amy J. Coming up at 5:38. The governor of New Mexico suspends her residents' Second Amendment rights, but just for 30 days.
Because she feels like it.
5:38. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Good morning, everyone. 67 degrees at 5:31, and we're following a major developing story in central Illinois where several have been injured severely following a large explosion and fire at the massive ADM soybean processing plant. Heavy smoke was seen coming from the northeast side of Decatur Sunday night. First responders headed to the Archer Daniels Midland East plant around 7:30. Again, several employees severely hurt, transported to area hospitals. It is the third fire reported at ADM this year. Today marks the 22nd anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks. After the attacks, President George W. Bush addressed first responders.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Families who lost loved ones on that day are already starting to gather at the World Trade Center Memorial in Manhattan.
It's been 22 years, and it's shameful that we have yet to have an administration or a president that has had the courage to hold the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia accountable for what they did.
The president will meet with first responders and military members at Joint Base Elmendorf in Anchorage, Alaska today. Rescue efforts continue in Morocco after a magnitude 6.8 earthquake rocked that North African country. Mark Mayfield on the devastation in that country.
More than 2,100 people are confirmed dead, and the toll is expected to rise. Thousands were injured as the quake was the strongest to hit the nation in more than a century. Morocco's King Mohammed VI ordered mosques nationwide to hold funeral prayers on Sunday. Offers of assistance have been pouring in from around the world, including the U.S. Officials at the American Embassy in the Moroccan capital say that they're not aware of any American fatalities. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Pennsylvania State Police believe an escaped criminal is still within the state and within the country. Officials say the search for Danilo Cavalcante has shifted to the northern part of Chester County after he once again managed to slip through a police blockade. Bears gave up 28 second-half points in a 38-20 loss to Green Bay. Bears surrendered 3 touchdown passes to new Packer QB Jordan Love, Justin Fields, a touchdown, an interception, and a fumble.
I think kind of the moral of the story is that we shot ourselves in the foot so many times. Pre-snap penalties, false starts, holdings, and then, when we put ourselves in, 3rd and longs, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 15, it's hard to convert on that, for NFL offense.
In other news we're following this morning, 2 former employees of the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services are scheduled to go on trial today over their handling of 5-year-old A.J. Friend's case in Crystal Lake before his death in April of 2019. Chicago police say 3 robberies occurred on DePaul's Lincoln Park campus over the weekend, committed by the same people, according to reports. The suspects wore face masks and hooded sweatshirts, telling college students to give them everything they had. There will be additional security on campus at DePaul today, and school officials have filed their concerns with the mayor and Chicago police. And the man charged in the deadly Highland Park parade shooting returns to court today. Robert Cremo III, the man prosecutors say opened fire on crowds in Highland Park in July of 2022, is facing more than 100 charges. And the Chicago skyline will be lit up purple for National Recovery Month through September 14. Illinois residents are also encouraged to join staff members and families and wear purple throughout the month to acknowledge family and friends who are in addiction recovery. Cubs finally beat the Diamondbacks with a 5-2 win and avoid the weekend sweep. Kyle Hendricks with the victory. White Sox lost to the Tigers 3-2. Overnight, Michigan State University has suspended football coach Mel Tucker without pay on a report that he sexually harassed an activist and rape survivor during a phone call last year. The news service of MyPillow. The MyPillow 6-pack bath towel sets are back in stock. Technology makes them absorbent, yet you still get that soft feel you look for in a towel. For a limited time, 50% savings with promo code LIBERTY. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher sees only one way for DeSantis.
The strategy has to be, listen, I want to win. I want to beat Joe Biden. I support the MAGA movement. I support what Trump accomplished. I support his ideology. I just don't think he can win, but I can. That's the only way Ron DeSantis is going to be the nominee.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I'm telling you, I'll be 74 in May, and I can't tell you how good I feel. I'm telling you, have my sister on it and her husband and so many different people.
It's just what the advertisements say, which is you get more energy. It really is a balance that the body needs, because if you just take regular people's diet, there's no way that they get the amount of servings of vegetables and fruits that they need. And so what this does, it assures that you are getting that. It really is. It's a beautiful name, balance of nature. And I tell everybody about it. When you got other people recommending it, it's a big thing.
Happy National Fruits and Veggies Month. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer today to receive $35 off your first order. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
This is Albert Mueller for townhall.com. For the first time in Gallup polling, only a minority of adults in the United States belong to a church, synagogue, or mosque. That's a quote from Nicholas Kristof, a man of the left, writing recently in the New York Times, interacting in his column with a new book entitled The Great Dechurching. The authors argue, and I quote, "We are currently experiencing the largest and fastest religious shift in the history of our country," end quote. That's quite a claim. The book emphasizes the sociological aspects of the decline in church attendance and church membership. Another writer speaks of belonging but not believing, that is, belonging to a church but not believing what the church is teaching. What we're seeing is that those who don't really believe are no longer belonging. They're pulling away. The point is this: the tighter the secular pressure comes, the more we're going to find out who was just belonging but not believing. Once theological beliefs become sufficiently scandalous, well, the belonging becomes quite untenable if you don't believe. We ought not to be surprised.
Hi, this is Randy Donnelly from Donnelly Auctions in Union, Illinois. Recently, I saved a woman from being robbed. Her husband had passed away and some of his friends had stopped by to buy his guns. Luckily for her, she heard my commercials and decided to call me before she sold them. I'm happy to report that she received at auction over 4 times the amount she had been offered. It's a simple, easy process. Donnelly Auction holds a federal firearms license and does all the necessary paperwork to sell your guns legally at auction. And we offer free pickup. So call me before you sell them outright because you could be leaving a fortune on the table. And you won't know until you call me at 815-923-7000 or send me an email at donleyauctions.com. My job is to get you top dollar for your guns and military collections, so call me today at 815-923-7000. I'm Randy Donnelly, and I'll see you at the auction.
Exergen thermometers are fast, non-invasive, clinically accurate, and available for medical and home use. Find Exergen thermometers at Walmart and Walgreens. Learn more at Exergen.com.
5:39. Let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Inbound Edens 18, Lake Cook Road to the junction. Kennedy inbound 34, O'Hare to the Burn Circle interchange. Ike outbound stop-and-go traffic between North and York due to an accident with a left-hand lane blocked. Dan Ryan outbound, an accident right by the exit ramp between Roosevelt and 18th. Tri-State accident, right lane blocked northbound on 294 just before the Stevenson. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast, a cooler day ahead. Morning rains, followed by a shower or two this afternoon and a high of 67. Right now, 67 at O'Hare, 69 along Chicago's lakefront, 68 at Midway. Your next news update is at 6. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy J. This morning, John Cass, johncassnews.com.
Good morning.
You not only John Cass columns and his contributors, you also get the Chicago Way podcast.
Yeah, and the new episode is going to drop today. We talk about,
Talk by the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so the people can hear you.
The new episode comes by today, and we talk about my favorite actors, Stacey Davis Gates and Brandon Johnson.
We'll get to them at the top of the 6 o'clock hour. But first, New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham. Over the weekend, she issued an emergency executive order suspending the right to carry rights of law-abiding Albuquerque residents because of a recent spike in violent crime.
Because she's a Democrat and just felt like it. What's the legal justification for obviating the Second Amendment?
You know how everybody in the wake of a mass shooting, not everybody, but a lot of people, particularly on the left.
Let's do something.
Bingo. So she's just doing something, suspending people's constitutional rights, despite the fact that they're law-abiding. They haven't been accused of any crimes, as the state Senate, a Republican state senator, Senate Minority Leader in New Mexico. A child is murdered. The perpetrator is still on loose. What does the governor do? She targets law-abiding citizens with an unconstitutional gun order. Yeah, but she's doing something, and that's what's most important. Here is Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham explaining herself.
I'm willing to do anything and everything within a shred of evidence-based effort. Because if you're not horrified that on any street corner in too many cities in New Mexico, there is someone with a gun sticking out of their waist or their belt. And I'll tell you, if you're a young person, you're not allowed to have a handgun.
Well, it's a crime already.
I got it, but we won't be able to arrest all of them. So imagine, just in a perfect world, if this was upheld, it gives all of these police officers the ability to focus on the real criminals.
I'm a little befuddled by that statement. So you already have, under 18, you're not allowed to have a gun, so that's a violation of the law, and police can focus on them right now. And over 18, she's frightened by people who have
guns.
a weapon, even though they're legally allowed to have a weapon.
It's her feelings, Dan.
And
that's
even I'm a little, I don't get
it's her feelings.
the connect.
The whole thing is feelings.
She is more upset about the murder of a couple of young people in New Mexico than anybody else, and she's going to do something about it.
It's time for Dan Proft to stop this monkeying around and sit on his philosopher's stone and explain to the rest of us why feelings are dangerous when they become part of government.
Well, I think Michelle Lujan Grisham is Exhibit 1. Your Honor, I'd like to enter her into evidence.
No further questions.
On her oath to the Constitution, questioned about that. Don't you have an oath to the Constitution? Sorta.
Last follow-up.
Yeah. But your point is valid.
You took an oath to the Constitution. Isn't it unconstitutional to say you cannot exercise your carry license?
With one exception, and that is if there's an emergency, and I've declared an emergency for a temporary amount of time, I can invoke additional powers. No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute. There are restrictions on free speech. There are restrictions on my freedoms. In this emergency, this 11-year-old and all these parents who have lost all these children, they deserve my attention to have the debate about whether or not in an emergency we can create a safer environment. Because what about their constitutional rights? I took an oath to uphold those too. And if we ignore this growing problem without being bold, I've said to every other New Mexican, your rights are subrogated to theirs. And they are not, in my view.
Wait a minute, okay. You're talking about crimes. There are already laws against the crimes, so how are their rights?
I got it, but again, if I'm unsafe, who's standing up for that right? If this climate is so out of control, somebody should do something. I'm doing as much as I know to do.
There you go. For the somebody should do something crowd, regardless of what that thing is, here's that thing.
But again, what are the feelings? When did feelings supersede logic? When did feelings and expression of determination to express my feelings get rid and wipe out the Constitution of the United States? When did feelings count for so much?
Suspension of the right to carry firearms in public across Albuquerque and the surrounding county for at least 30 days in response to the recent spike in gun violence, including the death of an 11-year-old boy outside a minor league baseball stadium last week. That, I guess, was some sort of road rage incident. Violators could face civil penalties and a fine of up to $5,000, according to the governor's spokeswoman.
When is she impeached?
There is a call. A couple of state reps there in the House in New Mexico have called for her impeachment, but we'll see how that goes. I don't think Republicans have control of that legislature, so probably won't go very far. It's only 30 days. It's only 2 weeks to stop the spread. It's only 30 days to reduce the gun violence. The Albuquerque police chief, Harold Medina, said he won't enforce it. The county sheriff said he's uneasy about it because it raises too many questions about constitutional rights. So it doesn't seem like she even expects it to be particularly enforced, but she's doing something, and that's what's most important. She's doing something. Her grasp of the Constitution and her logic in terms of this being some sort of policy response to violent crime is bewildering. But this is how people on the left, many people on the left, actually think. This is the governor of New Mexico. Which is to say they don't think.
To make New Mexico better, safer, stronger, just like Chicago.
Yes, they're going to build back better in New Mexico. And all the other aphorisms. So what's the magic of 30 days? What's going to happen in 30 days?
I don't get it.
And how, and I mean, the obvious question, how does suspending my rights as a law-abiding citizen reduce the incidence of criminals committing crimes? I've never quite understood the logic there because there's no logic there. Again, it's what you said. It's sentimentality. I'm doing something. I care. And people who don't support my unconstitutional power grabs don't care. The other thing about this is if you thought that the COVID emergency was the last time you were going to hear politicians invoke an emergency to reduce your sovereignty, well, I think Governor Grissom in New Mexico has instructed you otherwise, hasn't she? Candace in Mount Pleasant, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning. Hi, John.
Hey, Candace.
I have a few comments, guys. Okay, who cares what our narrative is? What they're really trying to do is test to see if they can do this all the way across the country. And my second point was I made this point on Sean's show, and I'm going to make it on yours. I think the biggest problem with this country are lawyers, because the American Bar Association, because if we have the Old West, none of this tranny castration, none of this stuff would be happening because we would already taken care of all this by now. So I really think instead of whining, we should start talking about who the real problem is, and that's the American Bar Association that allows, everybody's so intimidated to do anything right or moral in this country because of fear of law, and
You mean like
where
Judge
we're at
Roy
now.
Bean?
Well, to your point, Michelle Lujan Grissom is a lawyer. Her law degree is from the University of New Mexico, and that law school should be shut down if it produces the Michelle Lujan Grissoms of the world. But so many law schools should, to Candace's point. But this is not about lawyering, and it's not about shootouts in the Old West style. Although, yes, I know that the Wild West wasn't nearly as wild as reported because of gun ownership. This is about the mentality here. I mean, I don't think that a Governor Pritzker would do this just because it's so politically tone deaf. But, I mean, could a BLM Brandon do it?
In a minute.
Why not? I mean, there's an appeal of the sport rifle ban. Well, some sport rifles, the ones that they say are scary looking, and then other sport rifles that have the same functionality are not banned. But whatever. There's
ones
an appeal.
That shoot projectiles, you mean?
Yeah. Right. Some of them, not all of them. There's an appeal before the 7th Circuit right now that's pending. But boy, you're worried about them banning some sport rifles? Let me introduce you to the. Let's crawl inside the mind of Michelle Lujan Grissom. Tell you what they really think. I will do anything that even has a scintilla of evidence. Essentially, she said, "I will do anything," and the whole riff about there are limits to your constitutional rights. Yeah, that's true, but you don't get to decide what those limits are on an ad hoc basis. And this declaration of an emergency. Well, Governor, are there any limits to the declaration of emergencies where you can unilaterally infringe upon people's constitutional rights? That would have been a fun question to follow up with. Just to listen to, I'm sure, a constitutional scholar like Jamie Raskin. Everybody who went to law school, especially on the left, are all constitutional scholars. Hardly. They probably never even read the document. They certainly didn't need to. Most of these law schools. I mean, good God. Listen to what she said. I honestly, what she said in defense of her decision is more frightening than the decision. Because it gives you a look into the thinking. Holy cow. No idea what she's talking about.
And you can see it multiplying across the country.
Jim in LaGrange.
Hey, good morning, Dan. Good morning, John. How are you?
Hey, Jim.
So, so speaking of her wackiness, are we still under executive emergency orders in Illinois for COVID? Because, the last I heard from when Amy was talking about it, it was like 39 consecutive months, 40
Yeah,
consecutive months.
yeah.
I mean, like, what's going on there?
I think we did get to the 40s. I think we led the nation in consecutive COVID emergency orders, which is something to be proud of, obviously. But no, COVID has now been officially decreed over as of like 5 minutes ago. So I think maybe July was the last month. June or July was the last month. Yeah.
Well, Pritzker set a nice tone for the other governors to take a look and see what type of uninhibited power you can put upon the people.
Thanks for the call, Jim. Phil, Maryville.
Oh, hey, guys. Yeah. I wanted to say that Democrats, they do not mind crime at all because what it does is it pushes conservatives and moderates out of their state, and it gives them a stronghold on their state and, their political party. So every good conservative, it don't matter how bad the crime gets. It's just going to push all the good people out, and they got a stronger hold on their state.
They're all coming to Maryville.
Thanks for the call, Phil. Well, the other thing it does is it gives them the opportunity to suspend your rights. What are you for an 11-year-old being shot and killed, or however? I don't know what happened in the case.
You're not opposed to them being murdered.
Yeah, I'm trying to stop the murder of children. What are you trying to do? Yeah, right. That routine, more sentimental barbarism. I mean, really.
Still waiting for the column.
Barbarism.
Lay it out and explain it. Yeah. I want the rigorous mind of Dan Proft to be to lay it out in purpose, logic, reasoning, and explain to us what all that means. Put it down on paper, sir.
I don't know if I can. I've
suffered.
Scary, I'm a victim. I've suffered so much intellectual violence through the words of people like BLM Brandon and Michelle Lujan Grisham. I don't know if I have the capacity anymore.
Tell you, maybe James Warren and the Tribune Guild would not be happy with you.
Oh, the guild, the vaunted guild, the lollipop gang over there.
Exactly.
Mike in Littleton, Colorado.
Good morning, guys, and thanks for taking my call. This is the same playbook with these folks. It seems to me they're seeking to set a precedent that in the future can be, referenced. And with the fanatics and morons that the law schools are presently turning out, they'll buy it hook, line, and sinker. I mean, look, I think, if I can just editorialize on the Constitution for a moment, I'm not college educated, and I believe the founders purposefully, when they came up with the Bill of Rights, because the Bill of Rights was to sell to the people, because people said, yeah, you can have those three branches of government, but we want guarantees. And the Bill of Rights were those guarantees, and shall make no laws, pretty cut and dry. You should be able to stand in front of a judge and say, well, this says shall make no law. And any reasonable judge would say, yep, that's what it says. She made a law that's illegal, right? Case dismissed. So I don't know how we get out of it, but boy, logical thinking isn't what's getting us into it. So thank you.
Thanks for the call, Mike. Yeah, right. The Bill of Rights, restraints on government. Right, restraints on government.
There's no punishment for overdoing it. Where are the sanctions? Where's the negative pressure against those who would take our freedoms and spindle and mutilate them?
They're also just so dishonest. They're inept and they're intellectual. They're just their minds are so feeble. So I guess you would expect somebody like Lujan Grisham, with what you just heard from her, to be dishonest too. But hey, you want to argue like former Supreme Court Justice John Paul Stevens did after he retired, in an op-ed in the New York Times, that the Second Amendment should be repealed? Go ahead and make the argument. Go ahead and introduce a repeal of it, and try to persuade the many states to sign on. Go ahead, but this business.
Capricious.
I mean, there's the constitutional argument. There's just the practical argument of what this has to do with curbing violent crime in New Mexico or anywhere else. And, of course, the precedent setting that if you can issue an executive order restricting people's right to protect themselves, the Supreme Court has now so decreed, because there's violence on the streets. Well, I mean, that's just licensed to take away everybody's Second Amendment rights permanently.
And in a state where that is under assault by thousands and millions of illegal immigrants breaking the law, entering the state, trampling on ranches and so forth, they count. The people there in New Mexico count just as much as the simps in Martha's Vineyard.
And that's where we'll go at 6:06, updating BLM Brandon's 10 Cities program for Chicago. But now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
A massive plant explosion and fire leaves several wounded in Decatur. Bears blown out by the Packers in Week 1. Police shootout leaves one wounded in the Austin neighborhood. A filthy Racine, Wisconsin house had dead dogs decaying inside. Cubs denied the D-backs 4-game sweep while the White Sox fall to the Tigers. WIND Chicago News Time, 6 o'clock.
It's been 22 years. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Since America was shocked on 9/11.
2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
That was President Bush at a school in Sarasota, Florida, where his reading session with kids was interrupted by the news of the World Trade Center attacks.
Also, it seems like heavy damage to the upper portion of the building.
But it wasn't just New York City hit. A third plane crashed into the Pentagon in Washington.
And United Flight 93 crashed in a Somerset County, Pennsylvania field because those on board fought back and overtook the hijackers. In a half-hour span, both the North and South Towers, which had stood since 1971, had fallen. 2,977 people were killed, and thousands more were hurt.
That's Fox's Gernal Scott. There will be ceremonies at all the sites this morning. President Biden will commemorate the attacks in Alaska with U.S. troops at Joint Base Elmendorf. He's flying there now after leaving Vietnam over an hour ago. Fox's Peter Ducey's still there.
The whole reason President Biden was here in Hanoi missing 9/11 events back home is because he and his staff were telling us it's so important, strategically important, to come here to Vietnam to counter China's influence in the region, in South Asia. Well, when asked, he didn't have anything but nice things to say about China.
We're not looking to hurt China.
In Morocco, they've just upped the number of earthquake deaths to almost 2,500 as more international aid and search teams arrive. There are thousands of victims left homeless by Friday's quake. In the manhunt for an escaped murderer in Pennsylvania, Danilo Cavalcante was spotted over the weekend trying to get help from a friend, and he stole a van.
I do believe that he's still in Pennsylvania.
State Police Lieutenant Colonel George Bivens. Cavalcante broke out a week and a half ago, days after getting a life sentence in prison. America's listening to Fox News.
Clouds and rain showers falling across the area. 66 degrees now at 6:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Several have been injured following a large explosion and fire at a massive ADM soybean processing plant on the northeast side of Decatur in central Illinois Sunday night. It is the third fire reported at ADM this year. Bears gave up 28 second-half points and a 38-20 loss to Green Bay at Soldier Field.
Four-man rush. Love has Jones inside. Aaron Jones racing to the end zone, and he's in! Touchdown, Green Bay!
Some of the carnage on Fox yesterday. Bears surrendering 3 touchdown passes to new Packer QB Jordan Love and never led in the contest. Justin Field did have 261 yards through the air, but an interception and a costly fumble. 2 former employees of the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services are scheduled to go on trial today for their handling of the 5-year-old A.J. Friends case in Crystal Lake before his death. Carlos Acosta and Andrew Polovin are charged with endangering the life of a child and reckless conduct following A.J. Friends' death in April of 2019. One man is dead following a shooting in the Humboldt Park neighborhood. A 45-year-old victim was found with multiple gunshot wounds around 3 a.m. inside of a car parked in the 3600 block of West Augusta. There have been no arrests. Chicagoans are able to walk into the historic Medina Temple to find the temporary home of the Bally's Casino. successfully opening over the weekend after rehearsal events last Wednesday and Thursday. And a house of horrors is being investigated in Racine, Wisconsin, where police found 3 children living in filth, and it's worse than first reported, according to Racine County, as investigators found dead dogs decaying inside the home and slop buckets in the home instead of working toilets. Prosecutors are pushing ahead with neglect charges against 2, 38-year-old Sandra Lemke and 39-year-old Stephen Burdo. Both are due in court early this week. Cubs avoid the 4-game sweep, beat the Diamondbacks at Wrigley Field 5-2. They take on Colorado tonight on the road, while the White Sox host Kansas City after another loss to the Tigers. 6:04 and a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
The Sean Thompson Show.
The Democrat base, the army of mafia misfits, they're not aligned with us. They don't want to fix the problem and have the principles of Americanism. The people who support Democrats to this day, right now, who will, no matter what, vote for Joe Biden or an earthworm, they will continue to be the problem.
The Sean Thompson Show, weekday afternoons at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I feel better. I look better. I have more energy, everything. And I'm 60 years old.
Oh my gosh, you need to share every bit of the success. I'm in love with them, and I'm going to keep on taking them until the end of time because my body clearly is doing something with Balance of Nature. I mean, my skin looks good, and I've got energy, and I walk, talk fast, and you can see that I'm up with these fruit and vegetables.
Happy National Fruits and Veggies Month. Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer today to receive $35 off your first order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
More than 38,000 U.S. veterans are experiencing homelessness across our nation. Through its Homeless Veteran Program, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation is providing housing assistance and services to U.S. veterans in need. Over 500 veterans helped last year, more than 2,000 to receive help this year. If you or someone you know is a veteran who is homeless or at risk of homelessness, complete the inquiry form at t2t.org or donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at t2t.org.
Hi, this is Scott Trout of Cordell & Cordell. There are a lot of great dads out there. Sometimes those dads get divorced. For more than 30 years, we have represented men in divorce, confronting the pitfalls that could devastate your finances or harm your family relationships. While every situation is different, our goal is to get the best outcome for you and your kids. Visit CordellCordell.com to take the first step.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Springfield area attorneys. 2815 Old Jacksonville Road, Suite 103, Springfield, Illinois, 62704.
6:07, let's get an update on the roads this morning in our Team Hochberg Traffic Center. It is a service of the Pride stores with 17 locations throughout Chicagoland that include Taco Urbano or Urban Counter restaurants. Stop by their newest location, the Pride of Kane County in St. Charles, the corner of Kirk and Main. The Pride stores, not your typical convenience store. Inbound Edens, 23 Lake Cook Road to the junction. Kennedy 32 O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Kennedy outbound jams solid between Canfield and I-190 on the west end, headed into the big airport this morning. Ike outbound, accident, 3 left lanes blocked. It's outbound between the Tri-State and York Road. Stevenson outbound, an accident near the exit ramp at Route 53. Dan Ryan inbound, heavy and slow, 45 in from 95th. You've got a right lane blocked as they clean up an earlier accident inbound between Garfield and 51st. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Clouds and some rain to start us off this morning, and it'll be followed by a brief shower or two for the afternoon. The high today, 67. Clouds a shower tonight. It'll be partly cloudy late, though 57. Partly sunny for tomorrow, and the high at 69. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
Light rain showers and 63 degrees at O'Hare. Your next news update is at 6:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Papa Nicholas Coffee. Papa Nicholas Coffee, a family tradition since 1897. Online at papanicholas.com.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy this morning, John Cass, johncastnews.com. Sign up.
And the Chicago Way podcast.
Get a
which
subscription.
drops today.
Yeah. And get your hip waders out. Maybe you could do some johncastnews.com branded hip waders because it is getting thick.
Well, I've got a pair. I've got a pair now. Good Orvis hip waders that Steve the pilot helped me get. We got to get Danny Proft in a pair.
I've been in a pair.
You will walk
before.
all the way up to your chin in liquid and not have it touch your skin.
Well, it's getting up to my chin in Chicago. Between BLM Brandon and the Chicago Press Corps pretending to be independent of City Hall, it's breathtaking, really. I mean, it's mildly entertaining. It sort of brings a smile to my face. Mayor Brandon Johnson, this is your former employer, the Tribune, reporting.
Yeah.
Didn't just play the race card at a public event Tuesday night discussing his first 100 days in office. He pretty much laid out the whole deck. He declared that questions about how fast or slow his administration was or was not moving were rooted in racial prejudice against black mayor, and he called on his allies to call it out. Brandon Johnson quoted as saying, there's coverage of me being slow, right? These are microaggressions.
All right. I knew a guy named Harold Washington.
Uh-huh.
Harold Washington taught me a valuable lesson. When he was being attacked or criticized, rightfully so, by reporters, he chose the weakest one of them. What's his name? Skippy Jacobson.
Walter Jacobson.
Oh,
yeah.
And began to lambast him as a racist. And Walter was trembling, and his lip was going like he called me a racist.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I realized that this game is all BS, and that the thing that is the most malleable creature in politics is a liberal reporter terrified of being called a racist, and all of them are terrified. And so there you go.
What? I don't know, because I have an editorial right here from those mediocre art critics on the Chicago Tribune editorial board that says, well, the headline is, Mayor Brandon Johnson's use of race to preempt criticism won't work well for Chicago. They are shocked, just shocked, that a politician in Chicago would play this race card they've just heard about recently.
They've been playing it forever. But I give the Tribune give them a tiny nod, tiny tip, because they did call it out. And,
yes, hey, no one is free from criticism. Tut, Mr. Mayor. They're not calling. This is so pathetic. What city do these people live in? To talk about my residency,
Fantasia.
Where do they live?
Fantasia.
Oh, using the race card. Well, won't indemnify you from criticism, sir. What? This is the city where that propped up Jesse Jackson Sr. for 50 years.
He was the translator.
Oh,
the
my
man,
God. Come
the man
on,
who
dude.
translated the black experience for white reporters who never went out there.
I mean, come on. That's beyond the pale, even for this press corps, pretending this is something novel.
Nothing is beyond the pale to the Bolsheviks, my friend.
The Bolsa something. So against this backdrop of Brandon Johnson crying victim, racial prejudice, blah blah blah, and the Tribune.
Don't call me slow.
I
I guess we can't call him Mayor Fredo then. The black Mayor Fredo. You can't do that.
The Tribune dutifully pretending that this is good. They're going to have this back and forth about using the race card rather than, of course, the substance of what's going on. I mean, things are getting back to normal. The money changers are in the temple. The temple's now open. I saw a line around the block.
Robberies of tourists being beaten.
Mob economy is picking up steam. That's good news because by year's end, the migrant cost to the city is going to be $255 million, according to said mayor. Chicago O'Hare Airport used as migrant shelter. It looks like a scene from Mad Max, as one person described. The plan for 10 cities that we started talking about last week. And the big question is, well, where are they going to put them? Because, 10 cities are fine. We're a welcoming city, as long as they're not in my ward.
I think they should go in Lincoln Park, any place where the white chicks came out in big numbers for Brandon after they adopted neutered pit bulls and then came out to vote for him.
How about DePaul? How about Loyola?
Perfect.
How about Northwestern?
Perfect.
Don't just leave it to Northeastern Illinois University. Let's get all the colleges involved.
Right, because
how about
part of the community.
How about Peyton? Walter Peyton Prep.
Yeah.
All the woke schools for the elites. How about Francis Parker? They got space.
Pritzkerville.
They got people.
Yeah.
CBS 2 Chicago reporting that one spot may be down in the East Morgan Park, West Roseland neighborhood, 115th and Halstead. This white elephant. It's just an empty store with a big parking lot that the city had planned to turn into low-income housing with, some greenscaping and stuff. Oh, the renderings look wonderful. Yeah, so they were going to turn it into another slum. Instead, they're going to make it a refugee camp for migrants.
And that is the priority, to relocate the people who were forced to sleep on the floor at police stations. We're here at the 1st District in the South Loop. Because they have no other option, they would be relocated either to tents or to other structures. And one of those possible locations, we're learning from sources, 115th Street and Halstead. What is now an empty lot, a former supermarket parking lot, slated, our sources say, to become the site of large tents to house migrants. It's supposed to be a temporary solution to the ongoing crisis that has been migrant housing. Asylum seekers, children, and their families sleeping on the cold floors of district police stations. The tents could look like this. Older people we've spoken to have said they'll look at the way other cities have done the same. This is New York. Green tape marks where a person would sleep. There's a kitchen and there's air conditioning. All we know about the Chicago structures is that they're supposed to be military grade. No word yet on how they'll be outfitted for winter.
Military grade, does that mean that when they trudge through the snow, the paths become muddy on the way to the outhouse?
I'll tell you what.
Chicago.
The interesting thing is who gets the contract to build those winterized military grade
They better be
shelters?
minority
Is it going to be James Biden or is it going to be Elsie Higginbottom?
I bet your bottom dollar that Elsie's going to get cut in on this one.
What about Al Friedman? I mean, he can't subsist on the mere $16.5 million in rent he's going to get for having the casino at Medina Temple over 4 years. Oh, I mean, 16 $16.5 million plus a $330,000 management fee too.
There is no downside for the Democrats. They get everything they want, and then they get to tell their most loyal voters, black voters, to get back off the bus, step back, give your black get back, because they have new kids in town that they have to take care of, and these are
there's
Latinos.
A lot of new kids, new guard types, the new movement Marxists. I mean, they want the same deal that the Al Friedmans are still getting, apparently, and the Elzighen-Bagams have gotten for generations. Well, who can blame them? That's the way it's done in Chicago. There's idiot works, play hard, work hard. Yeah, okay, sure. So $255 million. Hey, by the way, what's going on in New York, where Eric Adams is throwing a daily conniption fit about the costs? They're destroying the city. They're who's the they? That sounds like othering language, Mayor Adams. They're going to destroy the city. We're doing 15% budget cuts. Every agency. Migrant crisis is detrimental. That may be coming to Chicago. Will anybody notice?
We know how severe this issue is to not only the city of New York, but the state of New York. New York City is the economic engine of this entire state, and we need a decompression strategy in the state as well as in the city. And I'm elected for one purpose, and that is to protect the people of New York City. And this is impacting the amazing recovery we witnessed after COVID. Our economic recovery, returning jobs, making our city safer and decrease in serious violence, us watching our children return to school with a new mission and goal. All of these successes are going to be hampered by what we're about to experience with the 5% cut 3 times in a row, which is going to equal 15%, as well as just the infrastructure issue that's going to come with this crisis. We're about to potentially have to move women and children to sleep in congregate settings, outdoors, in tents. This is unacceptable. This is not what our city stands for.
I don't know, but BLM Brandon said it is what our city stands for. And so does Eric Adams, because he supports sanctuary city
they bathe
designation.
Themselves. They bathe themselves in the self-righteous waters of their own purity when it came to sanctuary cities, did they not?
Oh, yeah.
They were pure. Hate has no home here, blah, blah, blah.
Welcoming city.
Welcoming city. We're not like those suburbs. We're welcoming.
By the way, this success that Eric Adams is talking about?
Yeah.
Queens hooker hangout compared to Bangkok red light district. Critics gripe doesn't feel like New York anymore. NYC child thieves keep targeting bars, leaving owners overwhelmed with thefts. The police can't arrest me. I'm just a kid. They got little artful dodgers running around New York City.
Who's the Fagin?
Pickpocketing.
Who's the Fagin?
Exactly.
There's one thing
it's Oliver Twist in New York City.
We had our share of criminals in Chicago. The one thing I never liked were Fagins, the guys who, turned younger people to the life of crime.
Well, yeah. How about the pimps? I mean, we got to institutionalize prostitution. I mean, that's the resolution of this, and we need to do it fast because we need the money. So when do we put up the brothel next to the temple with the money changers? Al Friedman's got property. You find another spot for it, right? I mean, shouldn't we legalize prostitution already? I mean, let's get done with this.
Get your crack, get your prostitution, and your
full mob economy. That's the way to a better tomorrow.
Because the government is now betting on the people to lose at Medina Temple, right? Don't they? Right?
Bally's certainly is. I think they've done this once or twice. I think they know how it turns out. Yeah. Same thing in New York. I mean, you just need to institutionalize. Get the cash so you can build the shelters, the refugee camps for the people in this country illegally. Oh, I'm sorry. They're all asylum seekers awaiting the adjudication of their applications. Sure they are. Okay, and you can believe that too. Karen and Beecher.
Oh, good morning, gentlemen. I cannot abide the usage of the term migrant or asylum seeker anymore. They are illegals who have crossed the sovereignty of our southern border, and
Yeah, but they're not the problem.
But
The
president invited them.
The problem is the legals, the people who are legally in office. And I'm not. The focus needs to be completely on the political leadership. Any distraction from that is, undermines
Dan won't allow it.
undermines the effort to hold them accountable if there's going to be any effort at all in places like New York and Chicago, which they probably won't. But I think we should be zero focused on the politicians. Yeah, I get it. People here are here illegally. And as John just said, and they've been ushered in by this government, federal, state, and local. And so let's talk about who ushered them in.
And who forced them to forced? I can't abide that word either. Forced them to sleep on a police station floor. I did not force them. I know you two didn't. Who forced them?
Anyone who voted
Thanks, Karen.
Anyone who voted for Biden, after he said during the debate, presidential debate, that he wanted all migrants south of the border to surge the border because that's the kind of country we are. That's the wonderful country we are. Anyone who voted for him is responsible. If you're Democrat, you're responsible for what we're seeing now. So don't come running to me and crying, poor mouthing, and saying, "Oh my God," because you're responsible for it.
Yeah, look, I think we should take the position of
And if you don't know that you had to be black to do that, right?
we should be advocates for the migrants. We should be calling on our betters who are in charge.
Right.
How could you let them sleep on floors in police stations, sleep at O'Hare? How could you be proposing to force them to sleep outside in tents during the winter months? Where is your humanity? Why are you not putting them up in your homes? Why are you not putting them up in all the commercial properties your allies own, like Pritzker? Think about how you focus on them and what they're not doing versus who they say they are.
Correct.
Zero focus on them. Singular. Tony in Riverside, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Good morning, gentlemen. Why are we considering tent communities when our governor happens to own many hotels?
Exactly
There
right.
you go.
Exactly right. Thanks
He's
for the
got
call.
the room. He should donate those rooms.
All these connected developers.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't put them up in vacant units and all the high-rise buildings in Chicago.
They could at least live as well as Louis Gutierrez did when he lived in the vacant lot near his house.
You're telling me that every member of the city council and the Cook County Board, all of these sanctuary city proponents, can't take one family into their home? I don't believe you. So, again, provide the leadership. Where is your humanity? How can you let people from another country trying to make a better life for themselves? This is what you say to us.
Especially
how can you let them languish on the streets?
And Governor, many of those people know how to take care of horses. So there you go. You get your grooms along with your poor people to live in your hotel.
It's not just the high, right? You've got the compound up in Wisconsin. You got the compound down in
Florida. DeSantis land, yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, and like so, Ronner, the former Governor Ronner, he's got 6 or 7 houses. He's a big sanctuary city proponent. So sanctuary state proponent. It became a sanctuary state under Ronner. Hey, open your homes around the country. They'd love to spend some time in Big Sky Country. They'd love to spend some time in Florida. Well, all of the sanctuary city, as we talked about, neighbors talking to neighbors about opening their homes. Hey, Joe, I know you and Sally are big sanctuary city. There's migrants that are sleeping in tents, and it's getting cold. Why don't you? I can connect you up to.
How about the people of Western Springs who voted for Marie Newman, my old neighborhood? You voted for Marie Newman. She was a progressive, hard lefty. How can you not bring them to Western Springs? You think they just have to live in the city, like on the 9th Ward in the 10th Ward? No. That you carried yourself demanding that hate has no home here. And so you should do the right thing, people.
Put them at Navy Pier. I mean, you could like the banquet
next to Sam.
The banquet hall. You can set up the banquet hall. You got McCormick Place. Do they even have conventions at McCormick Place? I know they had the socialism conference a couple of years ago. Do they even have conventions there anymore? I have no idea. But yeah, the banquet hall at Navy Pier. There's access to the rides. Sea Dog. You know, so pick up a tchotchke or two. You got your I Love Chicago T-shirt, complimentary, of course. What? There's no room at the inn for all these wealthy leftists who support these policies? I don't believe it.
How about Jesse Sharkey? Doesn't he have like an entire fleet of getaway vehicles or ships at his disposal?
Chris and Carrie.
Hey, good morning, Dan and John. Hey, why aren't the majority of these immigrants being sent to Washington, D.C.?
Because they don't want to go.
They should all be sent there. Maybe we get policy change then.
Thanks, Chris. Glenn and Oak Brook.
Good morning, guys. You said Navy Pier. There was a ton of boats that were docked that were empty. Why can't we put them in all the crafts that are docked at Navy Pier?
As long as they have sleeping quarters.
Throughout the lake.
Yeah.
What about that hospital boat? That has beds. What happened to that one?
George in Naperville.
How about funds that go to help the schools from the lotto? They put that towards helping the migrants.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for the call. Yeah, I mean, the lotto. Well, that's what I'm saying. The casino, and then if you want a little bit more cash, then you just institutionalize, have the government run brothels. Now you're swimming in cash, right?
Yeah, and it's all honestly earned.
We got earners.
The sweat on your back.
Good earners in office. Coming up at 6:36. They wanted to indict Lindsey Graham. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
62 degrees, rain showers in Chicago at 6:30 on AM 560, The Answer. Several have been injured following a large explosion and fire at a massive ADM soybean processing plant in central Illinois. Heavy smoke was seen coming from the northeast side of the Archer Daniel Midland East plant Sunday night around 7:30. And again, several employees have been severely injured. Moroccan soldiers and aid teams in trucks and helicopters are battling to try to reach remote mountain towns devastated by a monstrous earthquake that killed more than 2,400 people so far. Survivors are desperate this morning to help try and find loved ones feared trapped under the rubble. A suspended Spanish Soccer Federation president, Luis Rubiales, has resigned after kissing a player on the lips in a controversy that has completely overshadowed Spain winning the Women's World Cup for the first time. He announced his resignation yesterday on Twitter. About 146,000 U.S. auto workers are set to go on strike this week if General Motors, Ford, and Chrysler Dodge, what we now know as Stellantis, fail to meet their demands for big pay raises and restoration of concessions workers made years ago when the companies were in financial trouble. Now, that contract expires midnight Thursday. 22 years later, nearly as many Fire Department of New York members have died from 9/11 related illnesses as those who lost their lives on that fatal day. We get more from New York City this morning and Kristen Marks.
Just days before the anniversary of the terrorist attacks, the FDNY revealed the addition of 43 members who died of illnesses related to their rescue and recovery efforts to the World Trade Center Memorial Wall.
These 43 individuals possessed bravery and dedication. They honored their oath.
Chief of Department John Hodgins said it was the second largest group of names added to the wall since it was created in 2011, and the total number is expected to only keep rising. The FDNY lost 343 members on 9/11. Kristen Marks, NBC News Radio, New York.
The Bears gave up 28 second-half points in a 38-20 loss to the Packers at Soldier Field. Two former employees of the Illinois DCFS are scheduled to go on trial today over their handling of 5-year-old A.J. Friend's case in Crystal Lake before his death in April of 2019. One person is in custody after a dog was shot and 3 officers were bitten Sunday. It happened in the West Garfield Park neighborhood around 11:30 in the morning. The man charged in the deadly Highland Park Parade shooting returns to court today. Robert Cremo III, the man who prosecutors say opened fire on crowds watching the Highland Park 4th of July parade in 2022, is facing more than 100 charges. And Saturday Night Live fans in Central Illinois are still very upset over one of the comedy show's standout stars who flaked out and walked off an event in Champaign last week. Colin Jost and 2 other cast members were set to take the stage at the State Farm Center last Thursday, but abruptly canceled. Reps for the comedian said it was because of unexpected weather delays, but most who were there aren't buying it. Doors had already opened. Fans were already taking their seats for the 7:30 show when word leaked out that it was just canceled. Cubs avoid the 4-game sweep and increase their lead for the second national wild card spot with a 5-2 win over the D-backs at Wrigley Field, while the White Sox lost to the Tigers 3-2. Fighting Illini off to an 0-2 start on the young football season, and it doesn't get any easier. Penn State coming on Saturday. The news, a service of MyPillow. Big news. The MyPillow 6-pack bath towel sets back in stock. Proprietary technology makes them extremely absorbent, yet still provides the soft feel you look for in a towel. For a limited time, get 50% savings with promo code LIBERTY. Check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson.
Biggest problem with marriages?
Men.
Right. We expect too much from our romantic partners. You know, if it weren't for all the Trump indictments, my choice in the primary might very well be Tim Scott. Obviously,
he's smart.
Is the smartest guy on that stage.
Well, and tell people why Tim Scott is so smart.
Because he's single.
Start your day with Chicago's Morning Answer. Weekday mornings starting at 5 on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I feel better. I look better. I have more energy, everything. And I'm 60 years old.
Oh my gosh, you need to share every bit of the success. I'm in love with them, and I'm going to keep on taking them until the end of time because my body clearly is doing something with balance of nature. I mean, my skin looks good, and I've got energy, and I walk, talk fast, and you can see that I'm up with these fruit and vegetables.
Happy National Fruits and Veggies Month. Start your journey to better health with Balance of Nature. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer today to receive $35 off your first order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
A storm is on the horizon, and you need to keep the lights on no matter what. Your business relies on the power being on 24/7. It's the lifeblood of your data and computer systems. Weather-related outages from the power company are not acceptable. Your need for a source of power that's reliable 24/7, along with round-the-clock service that can dispatch technicians to your site immediately, is mission critical. Your business needs Charles Equipment Energy Systems on speed dial. These are the big boys, not residential or solar, but reliable industrial generators for emergency backup or events. When you need more than a 100-foot extension cord plugged into a small engine generator, call Charles Equipment Energy Systems. They keep the lights on with rental generators for job sites or power outages. A storm is on the horizon. Plan ahead. Call now to prepare generators for storms and potential power outages. Call 630-834-6000, 630-834-6000, or charlesequipment.com. You can't live forever, but your legacy can. For over 185 years, families have trusted Catholic Cemeteries of Chicago with 47 locations throughout Cook and Lake counties to set their legacies in stone. A prepaid cemetery plan locks in today's prices and safeguards against rising inflation. Visit CatholicCemeteryChicago.org or call 708-236-5490 to schedule a free consultation today.
This decade is looking like the worst one to retire or be retired in. For more than 30 years, Bob Carlson's Retirement Watch has been helping Americans invest, protect, and grow their assets. Subscribe to Retirement Watch and you'll get 3 months of Bob Carlson's Retirement Watch newsletter, 5 model portfolios, 5 free reports covering issues like estate planning and annuities to help you protect your money from the government and grow your nest egg. All for just $19.95. Sign up today at yourretirementwatch.com. yourretirementwatch.com.
Exergen thermometers are the #1 choice of medical professionals at top-ranked hospitals. Accuracy matters. Available at Walmart and Walgreens. Learn more at Exergen.com.
6:39. Let's get an update on the roads. A service of Blindster.com. Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped to you at prices less than big box retailers with free shipping and free samples. Right now, save 50% off any order at Blindster.com. Looking at the Edens right now, projecting at 29 Lake Cook Road to the junction. Almost an hour now, 56 minutes from O'Hare to the Burns Circle interchange on the inbound Kennedy. Kennedy outbound, 45 back out to the big airport. The Ike at 50 minutes, 390 to the old post office. The Ike outbound has an accident with 3 left lanes blocked between Wolf and York Road. It is 51 minutes outbound from the old post office to Route 390. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. Cooler, morning rain followed by a shower or two this afternoon. High 67. 63 at O'Hare, 64 Lakefront, 61 at Midway. Your next news update is at 7. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and John Cass of johncassnews.com in for Amy.
Good morning, everyone.
It is 9/11. And, you think after more than 2 decades you've heard every story from 9/11. But there's a story that was recounted in the New York Post over the weekend that I had not heard. Really, it's an amazing story. And it's even more remarkable that I think many people don't know it. I certainly didn't, I admit it. A TWA pilot that took evasive action twice before safely landing. First to avoid colliding with Flight 175, which struck the World Trade Center, and then Flight 93, which crashed in Pennsylvania. Twice. TWA Flight 3. A New York-based flight attendant was on the crew, and she recounted the story to the Post. There were two near misses. The pilot was never memorialized, even publicly identified in any of the counts, including the 9/11 Commission report. Sort of odd. A now retired New York Fire Department Lieutenant Charlie Hubbard, he saved our lives without a doubt. TWA's Boeing 767 took off from JFK for St. Louis at 8:47 a.m. on 9/11, almost exactly when the American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into the North Tower, the first to strike the World Trade Center. Commanding the cockpit was George, said the flight attendant. She can only recall his first name. I think they'd be more familiar, but I know there's a lot of staff and, Anyway. Minutes later, the jet confronted United 175s that headed toward New York City from Boston. The flight attendant said, "We were scissoring up and down. I thought we were going to crash. The plane was, one passenger said, the plane was shaking as it went down and came back up. And then you can just see, like, the plane just bypassed us really close. Turns out it was about 500 feet. I mean, for planes going that speed at that size, that's
nothing.
It's nothing. After learning United 175 struck the South Tower, now just put yourself in the position of everybody on flights on that day, too. After learning the United 175 struck the South Tower at 9:03 a.m., the TWA flight attendants pushed food carts up to the cockpit door to guard against possible hijacking because, right, nobody knew where were terrorists on which flights. The pilot warned the crew. Can you imagine being on a flight? The pilot warned the crew he'd be standing behind the door with an axe, according to this flight attendant. Led into the cockpit to remove the pilot's food tray, she recalled a chilling warning on the speaker. This is a national emergency. By order of the federal government, any plane still in the sky in 20 minutes will be shot down by friendly fire. The pilot, George, on this flight, first planned to make an emergency landing in Indy, but was diverted to Dayton. Passengers able to phone home started screaming that the Pentagon had been hit. Again, this is all the flight attendant's account. The proximity alarms in the TWA cockpit warned of another plane flying within 1,000 feet. The pilot took evasive action again to get out of the way of Flight 93 out of Newark that was headed toward D.C. and, of course, fatefully crashed in Pennsylvania, the Let's Roll Todd Beamer flight, right? What a movie that was, too, by the way. Very tough to watch, but it was a great job. After Pilot George, you got Steve the pilot, we got George the pilot here. Pilot George landed at Dayton. He confirmed, matter of fact, that he had avoided a plane that struck the World Trade Center. He said, he told ABC World News Tonight, but they didn't name him. It's amazing this guy's anonymous. Well, he was up there when we were coming from New York, so what we had to do was the flight control, were not talking to him. He was changing his heading and his altitude. So they cleared us to deviate however we had to stay away from him. We had him in sight. It was a nice day in New York. We were out of the clouds, which helped a lot. We just, dodged him. Like these guys talk, like Sullenberger talks, right? The TWA crew arrived in St. Louis at the St. Louis hub 2 days later to applause, learned just how close they came to the second skyjacked jet, Flight 93. Missed their tail by 500 feet, as I said. We're lucky to be alive, said that New York City retired fire department lieutenant. Yeah. It's just, I had never heard this story. Have you heard this one?
No. I thought I heard everything, and then I went through a period where I started shutting down and not, opening up to stories like that. And then recently I've become more receptive.
Well, yeah, I know some of the stories of loss are tough, clearly, and it was, the 9/11 families were back in the news recently with the whole flap between the LIV and the PGA, and I agree with them about
Saudi.
About the Saudis should not, the PGA should not have allowed themselves to be bought, essentially sold themselves to the Saudis, which is what they did. I completely agree with them. I understand from a friend of a friend, I understand why Jimmy Dunn did the deal on behalf of the PGA, and Jimmy Dunn has a lot of standing to do so because he lost so many colleagues in the World Trade Center. He was an investment banker, and he's like this
makes him
shaman
protected?
at the PGA. No, but the economics. The PGA put themselves in a very difficult position. He came in to broker the deal. He's not the PGA commissioner.
Where were you then? 9/11.
But anyway.
Were you at, and I, were we both at the formerly conservative radio station?
No. 9/11, 2001? No,
Yeah.
I was not even 30 years old. I was on the cusp of doing my first statewide campaign, the 2002 governor's race. Yeah.
You were a poor black man.
Well, no, but at the time though, I just had a little business doing consulting and permit expediting and things like that, and I was at a client's in the 41st Ward. I was in Edison Park.
I just remember that line because it was brilliant put down a lot of these pretenders who were running. But I mean, after 9/11, I'm glad you brought up 9/11 because I've gone through this period where I totally shut it off, and now I'm opening it up again. The manipulation, I still resent. Those of us who supported the war in Iraq, and to see the country gutted by the big state and the intelligent state, and our freedoms lost. It's pretty bad.
Well,
Plus
I mean,
all those lives lost. Okay.
well, right. The expansion of government on the bodies of the dead and the dishonesty that was associated with that expansion, including to the families who lost loved ones. And what we know about what we know now about what we weren't told about the Saudis' involvement in the beginning.
You're much more articulate than I am to describe it. Yes, that's true, Dan, all of that. And we weren't told, and it cured me of republicanism. I was a Republican up until that point, and it cured me of that.
Yeah, I tell you, it's interesting you say that because it's sort of the same thing, not immediately, but after the war in Iraq, and again the associated dishonesty there,
right.
and you learned. I mean, I get to some extent, you learn to be, or you should have learned to be a lot more skeptical of the government, even when they're doing some things right, but maybe for the wrong reasons. Even when they're on the right street, but they're at the wrong address. When it comes to national security issues, you started to say, well, wait a second, they don't trust me with the whole story. And then you're still, I mean, at least I was, I'll just speak for myself. You're still sort of like, well, I get it. They can't disclose everything, and they're acting in furtherance of our national security, and they're acting to hold people accountable
along with
who committed these terrorist acts. Yeah, and then now I look back at it, and it was a lesson hard learned.
I damn myself every time I think of Cheney and that crew. And I'm reminded that my brother Nick, who was then senior fellow in the State Department, told me, beware of what you're wishing for, because once things start, we haven't examined how deeply they will corrupt or rot the country, and it certainly did.
Department of Homeland Security,
All
the whole
of it.
surveillance state.
The surveillance state, and then then it became, hey, I don't have anything to hide. Look at my phone. I don't have anything to hide. It was like we gave away our freedom, our liberty.
We're not collecting metadata on American citizens. James Clapper.
Thank you, Mr. Clapper.
Yeah. But I mean, just going back, because I don't want it to gloss over this. I want to know who Pilot George is. I mean, Pilot George deserves his due, doesn't he?
Yeah. Why don't we know?
I want to see Tom Hanks play Pilot George in the movie. Rich, Indian Head Park, on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yes, good morning, Dan. Good morning, John. How you guys doing this morning?
Hey, Rich.
Good.
What I'd like to do is ask all the people out there to say a prayer for all the people we lost on 9/11 22 years ago with these brutal attacks on our country, and also a prayer for the families who lost loved ones, and for all the people who did whatever they could to save as many people as they can. Thanks, and you guys have a great day.
Very good. Thanks for the call, Rich.
And I'm really glad, Danny, that you're part of that whole Tunnel to Tower group. They're supportive of that.
Those guys are. I mean,
they're really.
They were at our golf outing back earlier this summer, and those guys are like super impressive. It is a great organization. Jim, South Elgin.
Well, good morning, gents. Nice tribute. Good to relive things. In my particular case, my brother Johnny worked downtown. I thought he actually worked in World Trade Center. It turned out he worked across the street. And after we knew what was going on, I called my sister-in-law and I said, "Where's Johnny?" "Well, he's playing golf." "Oh, good. Thank goodness, because he was, he wasn't there, and he said when the second plane hit, everybody just instinctively left. But in his case, he was in a convertible. He was in a financial instrument called convertible bonds.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, the whole industry deteriorated, so he couldn't handle it. So about 6 years later, he took his life because of that.
Oh, God.
Oh, jeez.
Couldn't handle it. And it was like a victim of 9/11, but it took 7 years for the bullet to get there.
Okay.
Sorry, Jim. Thanks for sharing that. Appreciate it. Well, we'll be talking more about this at the top of the 7 o'clock hour with Dakota Wood, too, in part, in addition to, all of our current travails.
There's only one radio show in Chicago talking about today's biggest stories and telling you what they really mean. That show is this one, Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
School has started. The nights are getting cooler. The sun is getting lower on the horizon every day. Winter is coming, and coming fast. Keeping your business's doors and gates working properly to keep out the extreme weather is a major concern. Your business can't afford a loss of income or productivity. Think ahead before Old Man Winter arrives and call Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. for your commercial door maintenance and security tune-up now. You can't always plan when your doors break down, and it always seems to come at the least convenient time. Industrial Door Company will ensure your doors, grills, and gates are working to specification and give you advice on how to increase the life of your doors. See a range of products and services at industrialdoor.com and call anytime, 847-258-5620. Their team will be there before the extreme cold weather causes financial losses for your company. Since 1982, the Industrial Door Company of Chicago, Inc. takes care of your doors so you can take care of business. Service and installation positions available now.
Hi, folks. Dennis Prager here. You've probably been hearing my colleagues and me talking about investing with YRefi for a while now. You may have some questions, so let's review. It's true. You can earn up to a 10.25% fixed rate of return that is not correlated to the stock market or the Fed. You can turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose, and there are absolutely no fees. There is no attack on principal if you ever need your money back, and you'll get your monthly statement with no surprises. Just go to investyrefi.com. That's invest, the letter Y, then refi, REFY.com. Or call 888-YREFI-24. Folks, this is a solid investment that actually helps people. Just go to investyrefi.com or call 888-YREFI-24 and tell them Dennis Prager sent you.
Cracked brickwork or caulking? Doors or windows that no longer open or shut properly? Permaseal can help with that. Hi, I'm Roy Spencer, president of Permaseal. When you look around your house, do you see uneven floors, gaps under baseboards, basement walls leaning or bowing, new cracks in your drywall or ceiling, or sunken concrete next to your foundation? These can be signs of structural foundation issues that won't get better with time. Call Permaseal today at 800-421-SEAL. Too often we hear of homeowners paying for an expensive consultation just to determine the problem. Don't be one of them. We can evaluate your foundation and offer you a permanent solution at absolutely no charge. Since 1979, Permaseal has been committed to providing quality-proven products and superior customer service. When the work is done, you'll have a transferable warranty along with priceless peace of mind. And now, through June, you'll save $300 off any structural repair. Call Permaseal 800-421-7325 or visit permaseal.net.
Are you a driver of a Ford PowerStroke diesel engine? Tired of taking your Ford PowerStroke diesel in to be misdiagnosed or paying for repairs that don't fix the problem? Well, bring your vehicle to the diesel headquarters, Remke's Garage. The shop is equipped with state-of-the-art diagnostic equipment and highly trained technicians. Take it to the experts. Take it to Remke's Garage. Remke's Garage specializes in Ford PowerStroke, Chevy Duramax, Dodge Cummins, Mercedes Sprinter, and Isuzu diesel engines and transmission repairs. At Remke's, they'll make your vehicle repairs convenient by offering a free commercial loaner vehicle.
Remke's Garage, where you won't spend $1,000 to fix a $100 problem. Call for details and to schedule an appointment at 800-5-REMKES or visit remkesgarage.com. Remke's Garage, your diesel headquarters.
Hi, this is Steve. I'm in Italy, away from my business.
But I'm not worried about the office or my absence from it. I'm confident because I've got Turnkey on my side. They've helped me solve several problems for my business, so I can finally relax for a bit while I let the business work. Not only did Turnkey help with my IT problems, their expert team gave me a custom consultation that found additional profit centers in my company. They've helped me focus on a new direction for my business. It's not easy to relax when you own a business, but with our partnership with Turnkey, I feel confident, resolved, and ready to deliver. Now, I'm going to relax, have a Peroni, and depend on the direction Turnkey has helped me embrace. They can help your business too. Visit turnkey.pro to start a conversation today. That's turnkey.pro.
The pros at Turnkey share your values. They know IT and they know small business. They're Chicagoland's small business champions. Visit turnkey.pro to book your appointment today. That's turnkey.pro.
AM 560, The Answer.
Dan and John Cass in for Amy J.
Hey.
Text about the TWA pilot we were just talking about. I'd like to see a movie about that TWA pilot, too. The problem would be finding a disabled lesbian in a mixed marriage to play. This is pretty accurate. By the way, I've got a good story on Mads Mikkelsen, the Danish actor.
Oh, yeah.
He's awesome. And a whole diversity thing. We'll get to that later in the show. Dakota Wood at 7:07. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
Bears blown out by the Packers in Week 1. A police shootout leaves one wounded in the Austin neighborhood. And the Cubs beat the D-backs. WIND Chicago News Time, 7.
It's been 22 years since America was under attack. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News.
We're being told a second plane crashed into the building on the opposite end. That's not an accident. That's on purpose.
And then a short time later, after terrorists flew 2 planes into the World Trade Center on 9/11, the Twin Towers fell.
I hope I live. It's coming down on me.
A third plane flew into the Pentagon, just outside Washington, D.C.
The youngest victim was just 3 years old. Lieutenant General Timothy Maude, an Army Deputy Chief of Staff, was the highest-ranking officer killed. A retired Rear Admiral was a passenger on the flight. Today, 184 memorial benches near where the jet struck the building are dedicated to each victim.
That's Fox's Jared Halpern. There will also be a ceremony near Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where a fourth plane crashed into a field when the passengers fought back against the hijackers. In all, 2,977 people were killed on September 11th, 2001. President Biden will commemorate the attacks in Alaska. Instead of being at a 9/11 site, he'll be with U.S. troops at Joint Base Elmendorf, flying there now after departing Hanoi.
It's unclear, though, why it had to be scheduled right now, like why he couldn't have come to Vietnam before he went to the G20. They added it on because he was going to be at the G20 in India anyway. We're kind of in the same part of the world. Why couldn't they do it before?
Fox's Peter Ducey in Vietnam, where the U.S. did enter into a new strategic partnership. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is on a train to Russia to meet with leader Vladimir Putin amid concerns North Korea could supply the Russians with military aid to use in Ukraine. It's up to nearly 2,500 people dead in earthquake-devastated Morocco.
Right now, Moroccans simply don't have time to mourn. They are looking for loved ones under debris just south of here in the villages in the Atlas Mountains.
That's Fox's Trey Yingst in Marrakesh. America's listening to Fox News.
More than 38.
62 degrees at 7:02 on AM 560. The Answer. Good morning. I'm Mike Scott. Several have been injured following a huge explosion and fire at a massive ADM soybean processing plant in central Illinois. First responders were seen heading to the Archer Daniels Midland East plant around 7:30. Again, several employees were badly hurt, transported to area hospitals for treatment. It is the third fire reported at ADM this year. Bears gave up 28 second-half points, getting smoked by Green Bay 38-20 in Game 1 of the NFL season at Soldier Field. Justin Fields, 216 yards through the air, but an interception and a lost fumble.
I think kind of the moral of the story is that we shot ourselves in the foot so many times. Pre-snap penalties, false starts, holdings, and then when we put ourselves in third and longs, third and 10, third and 15. It's hard to convert on that for NFL offense.
He added 59 yards on the ground. Two former employees of the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services are scheduled to go on trial today over their handling of 5-year-old A.J. Friend's case in Crystal Lake before his death in April of 2019, Carlos Acosta and Andrew Polovin are charged with endangering the life of a child and reckless conduct. One person wounded after a shootout with Chicago police. Sunday morning, it happened in the Austin neighborhood. An 18-year-old man is in good condition. There were initial reports that an officer was shot, but CPD confirms no police were injured. 2 Northside businesses are still cleaning up after groups of vandals destroyed the properties. It happened at the Chase Bank and another business along North Clark between Winona and Carmen. The mob consisted of between 10 and 15, both male and female, between the ages of 18 and 25. Cubs avoid the 4-game sweep and increase their lead for the second National League wild card with a 5-2 win over the Diamondbacks at Wrigley Field. White Sox lost to the Tigers 3-2. Michigan State overnight suspended football coach Mel Tucker without pay less than 24 hours after allegations became public in a USA Today report that he sexually harassed an activist and rape survivor during a phone call last year. The news service of the Pride stores with 17 locations throughout Chicagoland that include Taco Urbano or Urban Counter restaurants. Stop by their new location, the Pride of Kane County, in St. Charles on the corner of Kirk and Main. The Pride stores, not your typical convenience store. A check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Gas prices are still too high, and AM 560 and the Pride stores want to help ease your pain at the pump. Every Thursday morning in September, we're giving away $50 gift cards from the Pride stores to the first 56 customers who pump at least 5 gallons of gas between 7 and 8 a.m. at a specially selected location. To find out where, listen to Chicago's Morning Answer at 6:30 a.m. on Thursday morning. Then show up, fill up, and you could win a $50 gift card, courtesy of the Pride stores at AM 560. The Answer.
Hun, we need to stop putting off getting life insurance.
I know. It's just been so busy, and I'm sure the cost is out of our budget.
Well, Jen told me that they got a $500,000 term life insurance policy from Ethos for less than $23 a month. All online with no complicated forms and no medical exam. All they had to do was answer a few health questions.
Wait, no medical exam and all online?
I know, right? It's not easy to think about, but if something happened to you, James and I would be...
Okay, I get it. Let's get a quote from Ethos right now. Wow, you were right. There's no medical exam, and Ethos makes the whole online process fast and easy. And look at these rates and coverage options. It's great protection and totally fits our budget.
Ethos. They've removed all the barriers from getting coverage. Go to checkethos.com to get your free online quote. That's checkethos.com. Quote based on a healthy, non-smoking 30-year-old male with a 20-year term policy. Rates may vary.
More than 38,000 U.S. veterans are experiencing homelessness across our nation. Through its Homeless Veteran Program, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation is providing housing assistance and services to U.S. veterans in need. Over 500 veterans helped last year, more than 2,000 to receive help this year. If you or someone you know is a veteran who is homeless or at risk of homelessness, complete the inquiry form at t2t.org or donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at t2t.org.
Attorney Joe Cordell.
Business owners and professionals face special challenges in divorce court. In addition to everything else going on, they have to contend with allegations that they are earning more than they are, coupled with claims on their business or practice itself. Clients with assets depend on their divorce lawyer skills in these matters, and that's why it's so important to hire someone that has those skills.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Springfield area attorneys. 2815 Old Jacksonville Road, Suite 103, Springfield, Illinois, 62704.
Balance of nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I just had retired. I'm a union carpenter, so my body was a little wore out. My shoulders were hurting. Like, I eat potatoes and stuff, but I wasn't getting all the vegetables right, so I started thinking about that. And because there's no compounds, it's just all natural. It's not like vitamins you buy at the store where you read the ingredients, and there's like all different things. I don't even know how to pronounce the names that are in these vitamins. But this Balance of Nature is just all natural stuff, no artificial things. So I thought, I'll give that a try. You know, the stuff works. So now you guys made it easy for me to stay healthy.
Happy National Fruits and Veggies Month. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer today to receive $35 off your first order. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code Chicago.
7:08, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. And this morning we are looking at the Edens at a half hour. Lake Cook Road to the junction, the Kennedy 64 minutes. From O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Ike right now solid on the outbound side due to an accident between 25th and St. Charles. Dan Ryan inbound, 30 minutes, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Tri-State, accident being cleared southbound at Plainfield Road, while the Reagan right now is jammed solid eastbound between Route 83 and the Tri-State. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Clouds and periods of rain for this morning. A brief shower or two by afternoon. A high today at 67. For tonight, cloudy this evening. Showers, then partly cloudy late, low 57. Partly sunny for tomorrow. The high is 69. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560. The Answer.
63 at O'Hare, 64 along the lakefront. Your next news update is at 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment brought to you by Unleash Your Wealth with Raj Shah and Rick Borick this Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. Learn more at scwealthadvisors.com.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy J this morning, John Cass of johncassnews.com.
Good morning.
Chicago Way podcast there, as well as his columns and columns from contributors. I hope to be one day.
I expect you to be one. I'm sharpening my editor's pen.
No?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right.
I want a piece on sentimentality. Instead of talking about it, I want it written down so that people can reflect and look at it.
Fine.
Okay, let's go.
The big guy, Mr. 10%, your president, Joe Biden, was in Southeast Asia, made a stop in Vietnam. And he's so good off the cuff. He's just so good off the cuff.
God.
Remember the famous song, Good Morning Vietnam? Well, good evening, Vietnam.
Rim shot.
I don't remember the famous song, Good Morning Vietnam. I remember the movie with Robin Williams.
Right.
Movie.
I don't remember a song.
Mm-hmm. And he gave like a 20-minute presser.
That was odd. It was rambling, and it was rather frightening coming from the leader of the free world.
So good off the cuff. I mean, he just commands the audience's attention until he gets tired and he wants to go to bed.
The light I see. I'm just following my orders here.
Who are these people who order the
I have a
president
game
out?
plan. He may have a game plan. He just hasn't shared it with me. But I tell you what, I don't know about you, but I'm going to go to bed.
Okay, I guess good night, Joe Biden. Good evening, Hanoi, and good night or good evening,
Put yourself
Vietnam.
in the place
night,
of the
Joe.
frontline colonels and others who have to make decisions, and lives of troops are at stake. And
Can I say one thing though about this, because I know everybody goes immediately to sort of the doddering old man.
it might be a dodge. I'm going to be indicted, so I want to protect myself.
Oh, he's doing the gigante. He's going to
Right.
start walking around
Chin.
in robes and pretending he's doesn't
Joey
know
the
where he
Chin.
is. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Maybe, but there's something else too, because he did this the other day with the mask thing. He did this thing he does. I just want to.
Who's breathing on the 80-year-old man?
No, but I want to address this because it's it's a little. I think it's more nuanced than just doddering old man.
Hello, everybody. I'm explaining to the press. I've been tested again today. I'm clear across the board. But they keep telling me because this has to be 10 days or something, I got to keep wearing it. But don't tell them I didn't have it on when I walked in.
This thing he does where he's like, don't tell them, my handlers, I'm just following orders here. That's supposed to be tongue-in-cheek. And the way that he does this, I mean, first of all, he's just not a particularly intelligent or particularly intellectually curious guy. He wasn't when he was 29. He wasn't when he's 79. He still isn't. Okay, so that's just your baseline. But this thing that he does where he tries to, be self-effacing, I'm just here to follow orders.
Right,
don't tell on me.
Right.
That
I'm
is
just the president.
Yeah, that's him saying, I do my own thing. It's like I'm still in charge. Just like I'm supposed to read this, or they don't tell them I did that. Yeah. That's just his way of trying to separate himself from all these handlers around me. But don't worry, I'm really in charge. That's really what that is.
Tell me when. All I need to know from Biden is when did Obama realize and let him take bribes from the oligarchs to put us closer and closer to nuclear war?
All right.
That's the only thing that I care about.
I don't know about you, but I'm going to bed rather than answer that question.
Right.
Dakota Wood served America for 2 decades in the Marine Corps. He's senior research fellow for the defense programs at the Heritage Foundation. He joins us now. Dakota, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hey, appreciate that. Yeah, those clips, that reminds me of just Churchill, right? Leading the...
Yes, very Churchillian.
Wait, I thought that was applied to the Ukrainian, right?
Yeah.
The president. The Ukrainian president smokes cigars. That's what my brother said. He smokes cigars like Churchill.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No?
I don't think we have any Churchills wandering around as heads of state at the present time.
Or Margaret Thatcher's or Pope Paul II or any of those folks. Yeah.
No. But boy, that important trip to Southeast Asia, I guess, sort of.
Yeah.
What was the point again?
It's supposed to be the annual meeting of the top 20 industrialized countries.
Yeah.
One of those 20 is the European Union. They've introduced a new member, the African Union, so a collective of 50 some odd countries there. So I don't know if they'll call it the G21 now or not, but it's supposed to be.
Well, they could keep it the G20 because China's not coming anymore.
Well, or Russia, they sent some low-level emissaries, but the heads of state did not show up. And the mess out of this big summit was they had a collective statement saying, hey, using military force to change boundaries is bad, but they didn't make any mention of Russia invading Ukraine. So their foreign minister Lavrov, hails it as a great victory for Russia. That, since all these major industrialized countries didn't take Russia to task by name, well, clearly, Russia is calling the shots, even though they weren't there as a head of state, attendee.
I want to talk a little bit about the CCP here because and how they insinuate themselves at the state and local level too. We're always talking macro level. We're talking at the sort of institutional level with respect to colleges and the Confucius Institutes. But we have an example here in Illinois. It was dug up by Jeannie Ives over at Breakthrough Ideas. Jeannie Ives, West Point grad. Governor Pritzker, he's the governor of Illinois, unfortunately. One of the plants that he has cut a deal with, he's of course a huge backdoor Green New Deal guy. And tries to get Podesta's money down to the state level, like all these blue states are doing. Chinese Communist Party apparatchik Chen Li inked and the state of Illinois inked a deal on Friday that will bring a $2 billion EV battery assembly plant to Manteno, which was an old Kmart distro center. The incentive, according to Crane's Business, $125 million up front and an additional waiver of employee income tax for a total deal $536 million. Oh, $2 billion EV plant assembly. Oh, by the way, there's $500 million in tax incentives. The local property tax will be frozen at $2 million for decades, too, which is double its current tax. Anyway, this Chen Li is a member of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, which is a political advisory group to the PRC and an important part of the CCP. And here we have this another example where you have this money being thrown around at the federal level, and then from the feds to the states in places like Illinois, and then these Marxists at the local level, the state level, cutting these deals like this one with a principal who is a member of the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that it would seem to me is a problem. We're all talking right now about how we rely too much on China overseas for our the ingredients to our pharmaceutical drugs and the precious metals for our phones and semiconductors and so on and so forth. And here we're bringing them home and we're still relying on them.
Yeah, there's this issue, I think it's in California, or it's actually by the administration regulations that will affect the trucking industry, saying that X number percentage have to go all electric by certain dates and want to phase out use of diesel and over-the-road trucks. And this trucker was asked about it, and he said, look, when we put in 200 gallons of fuel, we can go, a couple thousand miles without stopping. And as you're driving, each gallon you burn reduces the truck's weight by, 8 pounds a gallon or something like that, right? So you get more and more efficient, relatively speaking, as you go on. You put a battery in the vehicle, and the battery's weight stays the same forever. So you're using up the electricity in there, but the battery itself remains heavy, and you can only go a fifth of the distance. You have to stop every couple hundred miles to recharge itself. And the reason I bring up that odd example is it relates to what you're talking about. This allure of battery technologies comes with a huge amount of costs that aren't discussed. And yet, what's the driver? It's money. And the politicians think that the money that comes along with these sorts of initiatives are going to convince voters that this is a great thing and it'll keep them in office. So what all of this comes down to in Illinois and elsewhere is the average American citizen. What are we willing to tolerate? If we want government ties and business ties to communist China because you get a nickel off of whatever it is you're buying at the store, then we'll have, again, the creeping taking over of the United States by the Communist Party in Beijing. So I know a lot of Americans, and my wife and I try to do this. When you go out to the store to buy something, it's made in America or it's going to be made in China or someplace else. Are you willing to spend a little bit more money to buy something that might be a bit more expensive to prevent us sending our money to the Chinese Communist Party? So these deals with battery plants, assembly plants, and all the other things that come out of that country, any dollar you spend on that, even if it's, tax subsidies or it's providing a job for an American here, all that wealth goes back to the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah, and I mean, we have a story last week. Chinese gate crashers at U.S. bases spark espionage concerns. Washington has tracked 100 incidents involving Chinese nationals trying to access American military and other installations. And it's, Chinese Americans or naturalized citizens, fine. People that check out in terms of not being affiliated with the Communist Party. But you have principles of the Communist Party that are principles of business operations that are adjacent to technological, technologies that are adjacent to our national security, and they're just like, let's subsidize them with taxpayer dollars.
And the government's holding their hand.
Yeah, how many stories can you recall where Americans abroad, as tourists, wandered into, a German military base,
right,
or a Chinese Communist Party, Air Force base? Oh, we lost our way, and we just happen to have our cameras and electronic devices and stuff with them, right? So, I mean, this whole idea of Chinese nationals in boats approaching launch facilities around Cape Canaveral or wandering or trying to, crash through a gate.
Oh, is this Cape Canaveral? I was looking for Disney World. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
We're the Pirates of the Caribbean.
Right.
It's Space Mountain, know?
Yeah, right. I wanted to, and we were just talking about this, John and I were at the end of the last hour because of this story in the New York Post about this TWA pilot that I don't think many people knew about that had dodged 2 of the flights that went down on 9/11 and safely landed in Dayton, Ohio. and there's just not much known about him. Even his last name, don't really know who he is. But anyway, I understand that you participated in the planning and execution of operations around the world, including Operation Enduring Freedom, in response, to the preparation to the response to the attacks, the terrorist attacks on 9/11, and just wanted to get your reflections as somebody who served our country in the Marine Corps and served in that position as we remember 9/11.
Yeah, timing is everything on those things. So this airline pilot, right, who by scheduling, just wasn't on those planes or flying the planes, and however that all worked out. I mean, in the spring of 2001, I was actually attending a conference in Windows on the World, the top floor of World Trade Center 1, 6 months before. And I was assigned at that time to an office in the Pentagon, and it was on the side of the building hit by the plane. But what happened was I was reassigned to another office, and both of these were think tank things. So my other office was a small group of guys that supported the Secretary of Defense. And that morning on 9/11, it was right across the other side of the Pentagon. That morning on 9/11, I had left the building with our director, who was 80 years old, to attend a meeting in downtown D.C. And during that meeting that morning, it was interrupted. We were evacuated from the building, and you looked across the city and smoke rising from the Pentagon. So, I walked him home. He lived over near the Watergate complex, and then I had to walk out of the city with 100,000 of my best friends. And a couple of days later, able to get back into the building, and then it was all on war planning. So I assisted on the Marine Corps side for several days, and then was directed to go to U.S. Central Command, headquarters at MacDill Air Force Base in Florida, and was one of the lead logistics planners for our operations into Afghanistan. So, it's kind of, you can't plan these things, right? Sometimes it's just timing, and you find yourself in a position, and then, how do you respond to that position, right? And all of us were someplace on that day, and you probably remember, did you know somebody in New York or in Washington, D.C., or for what, it was a week or more, there were no commercial air flights, airplanes flying in the skies, over the United States. And, living here in Northern Virginia and working in D.C., you'd look up and the only planes flying were F-15s armed with air-to-air missiles, and armored vehicles protecting all the entry waypoints into Washington, D.C. with mounted machine guns and whatnot. So it was a very bizarre period of time, and, it was nice to be able to be into a position to help the U.S. response against these terrorists.
That you had something to do, that you could actually do something.
Yeah, that's a good
many
point.
of us,
I mean, a lot of folks. Yeah, I mean, you had people who would bring, baked goods to local fire departments and police stations. People were wanting to do something to help their country because we love the country and we had been attacked, and people wanting to roll up their sleeves. So, myself and colleagues in the military, you could actually do something to strike back at these SOBs, and so it was, felt good to be able to do that.
Dakota Wood served America for 2 decades in the Marine Corps, as he was describing. Senior Research Fellow for Defense Programs at the Heritage Foundation now. Thanks as always, Dakota.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
This is Dennis Prager. Sign up today for an unforgettable experience in Israel this October. Mike Gallagher and I are traveling to the Holy Land on the Stand with Israel tour with our trusted partner, Inspiration Cruises and Tours. This trip of a lifetime to Israel is one you don't want to miss. Register today before it's too late at standwithisraeltour.com, standwithisraeltour.com, or call 855-565-5519. 855-565-5519.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank. Your business and your money are in good hands with Signature Bank. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
Hi, I'm Nick Philippus, co-owner of Joe Donut and a proud customer of Signature Bank. We're a locally owned artisan donut shop that focuses on chef-made small batch and craft donuts. We have 7 locations around the Chicagoland suburbs, with an 8th location coming soon. After opening our original stores in Glenview and Niles, we came to Signature Bank for financing for our new Mount Prospect location. From PPP and material delays in construction, Signature Bank was flexible and truly a banking partner that a small business like ours hadn't experienced before. Even their fraud department was able to stop a $30,000 fraudulent check from clearing our account. That allowed us to focus on selling donuts, knowing Signature Bank had our back.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Let Signature Bank turn your business vision into reality. Visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Have you noticed? I'm sure you have, that gas prices are still too high, and AM 560 and the Pride stores want to help ease your pain at the pump. So listen to this. Every Thursday morning during the month of September, we'll be giving away $50 gift cards from the Pride stores to the first 56 customers who pump at least 5 gallons of gas between 7 and 8 a.m. at a specifically selected Pride store location. How can you find out the location? Well, you need to listen to us right here on Chicago's Morning Answer at 6:30 a.m. on Thursday morning. We'll reveal that week's location, then show up between 7 and 8 a.m., fill up with at least 5 gallons, and you could win a $50 gift card if you're one of the first 56 customers. See what we did there? It's all courtesy of the Pride stores and AM 560, The Answer.
Some save money for one big dream vacation. I take the kids camping twice a year.
For me, what's most important is sharing with my community members in need.
My financial goals? Expect the unexpected and plan accordingly.
At Thrivent, we believe money is a tool, not a goal. Driven by a higher purpose at our core for more than 100 years, we offer expert financial advice that starts with what's important to you. Visit Thrivent.com to learn more.
It took a panicked run on a major bank to lead to the second biggest bank failure in U.S. history, and Moody's just downgraded the entire U.S. banking system from stable to negative. Just a reminder why many people diversify their portfolios with something tangible, something that doesn't need bailing out, something that can't vanish into thin air. Learn the truth in Swiss America's shocking report, The Secret War on Cash. This all-out war against cash is a war against the Constitution, against all freedom-loving Americans. You must read The Secret War on Cash. Get your free copy by calling or texting 800-630-1495. That's 800-630-1495. This all-out war on cash, digital forms of currency too, is growing daily. So please get and read The Secret War on Cash, free to Salem listeners by calling or texting now at 800-630-1495. Make sure you mention Salem when you call or text 800-630-1495.
AM 560, The Answer.
The president of the American Federation of Teachers, Randy Weingarten, you know who her top deputy is?
Yeah. It's Miss Private School for thee, not for me.
That's right, Stacey Davis Gates. Well, Randy Weingarten says to the question of whether or not parents should be informed about schools transing their kids. Well, you'll find out what she says at 7:37. Now we check the headline. Mike Scott.
62 degrees at 7:31. At least 10 have been injured following a large explosion and fire at a massive ADM soybean processing plant in central Illinois. First responders were seen heading to the Archer Daniel Midland East plant around 7:30 last night. Today marks the 22nd anniversary of the 9/11 terror attacks. After the attacks, President George W. Bush addressed first responders.
I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Families who lost loved ones on that day are spending the morning gathering at the World Trade Center Memorial in Manhattan.
It's been 22 years, and it's shameful that we have yet to have an administration or a president that has had the courage to hold the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia accountable for what they did.
The president is meeting with first responders and military members at Joint Base Elmendorf in Anchorage, Alaska. Rescue efforts are ongoing in Morocco just days after a magnitude 6.8 earthquake killed at least 2,400 in that North African country. About 146,000 U.S. auto workers are set to go on strike this week. General Motors, Ford, and Dodge Chrysler, what we now know as Stellantis, failed to meet their demands for a big pay raise and restoration of concessions workers made years ago when the companies were in financial trouble. That contract runs out Thursday. Bears gave up 28 second-half points in a 38-20 loss to the Green Bay Packers at Soldier Field. Bears surrendering 3 touchdown passes to new Packer QB Jordan Love. One man is dead after a shooting in Humboldt Park. The 45-year-old victim was found with multiple gunshot wounds yesterday inside of a car parked in the 3600 block of West Augusta. One person is in custody and a dog was shot after 3 officers were bitten Sunday. It happened in the West Garfield Park neighborhood as police say a woman was impeding their investigation. Chicagoans are now able to walk into the historic Medina Temple to find the temporary home of Bally's Casino. The casino successfully completed regulatory rehearsals last Wednesday and Thursday. All proceeds generated from those days will be presented to select local charities. And Kroger's and Albertsons will sell more than 400 grocery stores, including over a dozen here in the Chicago area, seeking to clear the way for a merger. The stores, along with QFC, Mariano's, and Carr's brand names, are sold to C&S Wholesale Grocers. Right now, it looks like the Mariano's name will stand in the suburbs and the city. Cubs avoid a 4-game sweep and increase their lead for the second and a wild card spot with a 5-2 win over the D-backs at Wrigley Field. Sox lost to the Tigers 3-2, Fighting Illini off to a 1-1 start on the young college football season after a tough loss to Kansas on the road Friday night. The slow start doesn't bode well against Penn State this coming Saturday. And a Monday night matchup marks the end of Week 1 of the NFL season, Jets and Bills. The news service of Dan and Amy 24/7, around the clock, all day, every day. Listen now, Dan and Amy247.com. And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Mike Gallagher sees the country coming around.
But you know what? In talking to people, they're angry, but they're also resolute. You know the old expression about the sleeping giant? It feels like people are finally waking up. People are seeing how awful the other side is, and they're realizing we are going to have to get this country back.
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9, right before Dennis Prager at 11 on AM 560. The Answer.
Balance of Nature, changing the world one life at a time.
I just had retired. I'm a union carpenter, so my body was a little wore out. My shoulders were hurting. Like, I eat potatoes and stuff, but I wasn't getting all the vegetables, right? So I started thinking about that. And because there's no compounds, it's just all natural. It's not like vitamins you buy at the store where you read the ingredients and there's like all different things. I don't even know how to pronounce the names that are in these vitamins. But this Balance of Nature is just all natural stuff, no artificial things. So I thought, I'll give that a try. You know, the stuff works. So now you guys made it easy for me to stay healthy.
Happy National Fruits and Veggies Month. Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer today to receive $35 off your first order. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
Are you turning 65 and thinking about Medicare? Or are you over 65 and haven't enrolled yet because you still have coverage at work? Either way, Medicare done correctly will be the best health insurance you will ever have. Imagine having nationwide access with an annual deductible of only $226. There are only 2 good things about aging, wisdom and Medicare. But to navigate the Medicare maze properly, you need a mentor. Best part? My guidance costs you nothing. Call me. I can help.
If you're tired of calling a bureaucrat at an 800 number to help you navigate Medicare, then you need a local expert on your side. Your own health insurance mentor. See Stephen Tucker from healthinsurancementors.com is someone I know and trust. He's a 28-year licensed broker who's been educating our listeners for more than a decade. Steve, how can listeners get in touch with you?
Thanks, Dan. They can visit healthinsurancementors.com or call me directly at 630-674-1551. That's 630-674-1551.
Greetings, friends. Sebastian Gorka here. You've probably been hearing my colleagues and I talking about investing with YRefi for a while. You may have some questions. So let's review. It's true. You can earn up to 10.25% fixed rate of return. That's not correlated to the stock market or the Fed. You can turn your income on or off, compound it, whatever you choose,
And there are absolutely no fees. There is no attack on principle if you ever need your money back, and you'll get your monthly statement with no surprises. Just go to investrefi.com. That's invest, the letter Y, then REFY.com, or call 888-YREFI24. Friends, this is a solid investment that actually helps people. Just go to investyrrefi.com or call 888-YREFI24 and tell them Dr. G sent you.
Exergen thermometers are clinically proven to be more accurate than non-contact thermometers. Exergen is fast and non-invasive. Available at Walmart and Walgreens. Learn more at exergen.com.
7:38 Team Hochberg Traffic Center time is the service of Tom Mirabali Insurance. Learn how he can eliminate the mandatory maternity coverage and lower your monthly premiums. Get started at healthplanchicago.com. Eden's 35, Lake Cook Road to the junction. An hour 16 on the Kennedy Inn from O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Eisenhower stop and go between 9th and Ogden. It's an hour and 6 minutes from 390 to the old post office. Dan Ryan, 42 minutes, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Solid traffic. Brake lights eastbound on the Reagan I-88 between Route 83 and the Tri-State. I-80, a roadblock due to an overturned vehicle involving actually two semis westbound between Larkin and I-55. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast, a cooler day ahead. Morning rain followed by a shower or two this afternoon, high 67. 63 right now. Next news at 8. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. America First with Sebastian Gorka, weekday afternoons at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy is the vaunted John Cass, His Eminence.
JohnCassNews.com, JohnCassNews.com. Subscribe today.
John Cass is always closing. He's trying to win the Cadillac,
Well, you know
or at least
what?
the steak knives.
There are only two of us in this market, me and you.
Yeah,
that's it. There are no other conservative voices that I know of. I mean, I guess WLS and calls themselves a conservative station, but I don't think so.
Well, no, nobody locally is, though.
Right, no, nobody
They just
locally.
pipe in conservatives. They don't know any conservatives in Chicago. They're like Pauline Kael. By the way, if you like John Cass on the air, why not like him in person? New Cheer Neighbors is hosting the Chicago Way returns to the North Shore this Sunday. That's September 17th. Private residence in Wilmette. Oh, Wilmette.
That's,
they're going to allow me up there. I'm pro concert at Ryan Field, too, so I don't know. It could get a little rowdy in Wilmette. I just hope it ends peacefully. I don't want any violence up there.
I expect WTTW, Wilmette Talking to Wilmette guy.
Exactly.
Will
live stream. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to be there. John Cass is going to be there. We're going to talk about stuff. John Cass is going to answer questions. There are 2 tickets left after they bumped up the capacity because they initially sold out in just a few days. You're popular on the North Shore. You're a fixture. They cannot take more waitlist names, but people can sign up for emails at newcheerneighbors.org, newcheerneighbors.org for future events and information about schools and local government you won't get in the local press. New Cheer Neighbors, obviously, this independent parents organization.
It's a great organization.
That is, anti the orthodoxy of the North Shore, which we routinely ridicule because it's warranted. All right, so September 17th, newcheerneighbors.org if you want those last 2 tickets. And I'll see you up there, sir.
Yes, I'll be there early to say hello to my
your adoring fans. The throngs will be out. All right, Randy Weingarten.
All right.
She is the shrew-faced president of the American Federation of Teachers, one of the principal parties when it comes to who is responsible for the maleducation of American kids.
And her top deputy is, again?
Stacey Davis Gates, a
Who's
proud De La Salle parent.
Oh, is that we've gone there too?
She's a proud, right? She's a proud parent of a rising freshman at De La Salle.
She, look,
I love that rising freshman, rising.
They
sophomore.
stop people from trying to send their children to parochial schools to get them out of the public school mess that public schools are, and they basically bathe themselves in hypocrisy.
Segregation academies. That's what they used to be called until
Bennett called
Stacey Davis Gates called that until her son wanted to play high school soccer, and then it's let's go to De La Salle.
My sons were pretty fair soccer players.
Yeah.
And Lyons Township was their high school, and some Jacobin Cretan named John Greenfield or something doxed them, put it out, like put the school. They said they're going to this school. So all this stuff about the left worried about doxing kids,
right?
Forget it.
Nonsense.
They
Misdirection
don't believe
play.
it.
Just like her. I mean, just
but
like
it's not really a soccer. I don't think it's a soccer. You want a soccer mecca? Public school? Go to Morton.
in Cicero.
Yeah. That's where you go.
Well, I mean, also
Or Lyons Township.
Her statement, the dearth of offerings, curricula and
I was
extracurricular.
forced to do it.
But right, but hey, but it's fine for you. It's fine for everybody that's relegated to neighborhood school. But for me and my kid, not so much. Anyway, all right. So that's all the lead up. Randy Weingarten, back to her. She was on C-SPAN, and she was asked a pertinent question from a caller. Do you think parents should be essentially in the loop when it comes to things about their sexual identity and other matters? Should parents be folded into this? And here's how Randy Weingarten responded.
Can you tell the viewers if you oppose or support parental notification by the school when their student or their child is requesting to use different names or perhaps transition?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's a good thing when the schools keep that from parents? I personally don't. I think it's abhorrible. But let's hear your opinion. Thank you.
So let me just say this to you in a very, very personal way. I figured out that I was gay when I was in high school.
Everybody else figured
I
it out
confided to one
3
of my
years later.
teachers about it. I love my parents. I would have hated if that teacher told my parents. I wasn't ready to tell my parents at that point. I wasn't. I didn't know what I was. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so this is the questions, these are the tough issues that teachers have all the time. If somebody confides, if somebody does something, if something is done that is harming or hurting the kid, absolutely we have to talk to parents. Absolutely. But what if somebody confides in you and says, I don't know what I am. I don't know who I am. What do you do? So what I did as a teacher when that happens is I go to the guidance counselor, I go to the others, we try to figure out what's going on, and we try to make a decision that's in the best interest of the kid.
And you were on the
most
other
of the
side of
time-
that when you were a teacher too?
Yeah, I was on the other side of that when I was a teacher too. And so these are really hard. Most of the time I lean to, we have to tell the parent. But what if you have a situation like this, particularly with trans kids, and they don't know what to do? And so we have to try to work this through in a way that's in the best interest of kids. And I'm not saying we get it right all the time. We don't. But there's not a bright line here. And I say this very personally as a kid who experienced it. And I didn't tell my parents until I was a lawyer, until I was ready to actually deal with their reaction to it. So, it's just a matter of what do we do? How do we wade in? I don't think there's a bright line here.
Is that right? No bright line? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 646-36DA, turnkey.pro text line.
I would very much like to draw a bright line through her bleeping forehead, because when she says that she was in that situation, was she in a situation where her child or her granddaughter or grandson were about to be swept into some irrevocable gender affirming, as they call child abuse now, gender affirming care that we've talked to surgeons about this and others who say it's nothing but child abuse. Would Randy Weingarten's child would you not tell her or her about her grandchild or her child? Would she not pull the clout stick out and say, I'm Randy Weingarten, you better tell me now, immediately?
Well, a few things. First of all, she didn't tell her parents she was gay until law school, and everybody else knew about a decade earlier. Secondly,
before she did,
she hasn't been a teacher in a classroom in 30 years.
Right.
So all this, this is what I did as a teacher. Nobody was doing this. This didn't, for the most part, did not exist. I mean, it was the rarest of things to happen 3 decades ago. So give me a break. She's just lying. She's just making it up like she just stepped out of a classroom. That's all nonsense.
Fabulism. Yeah.
Right. Biden's sort of fabulism. Right. And number 3, this, just listen to the progression, because she wants to sound so reasonable and again, with sentimentality. I experienced this hurt, this pain. And so, but the protocol is, if this happens in my classroom, well, then I go to a guidance counselor, and then we decide whether the parents should be told. Normally we will, but, sometimes if they're not on board with us, then we won't tell them, is essentially what she's saying. So that's basically the same thing as saying no to the caller's question. Do you believe in parental notification? No, I don't, because it's my decision. This is what Miguel Estrada, the Secretary of the Department of Education under the big guy, you are a stakeholder in your child's education. You're not primary. You're just one of many. And, in loco parentis, they translate into the kids are ours. And then when they're at home, I guess they're yours, unless you do something at home that runs afoul of what we're doing at school, and then we'll come into your home, too, because that's exactly what's happening in California.
Try that in Dearborn, Michigan.
Well,
Try it in Dearborn, Michigan. Like, you might as well go and make some jokes about Muhammad while you're at it, and see what happens to you. Because you know what's going to happen? It's not going to be nice.
The idea that it couldn't be clearer. There's no bright line, so that means it is their discretion whether or not you, mom, and or dad are told. Let's just make it clear.
Yeah, they decide for you.
And the whole school, all these school systems are oriented in this direction because they're totalitarian re-education camps. Did you not know? Let me give you another example. Remember that preposterous shop teacher in Canada with the huge Z-cup prosthetic breasts and the like terrible blonde wig?
The human cartoon of a moron? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, she left the school she was at, Trafalgar High School, up there, at Oakville Trafalgar High School. That's where she was. And she showed up at her new school. She showed up at her new school, Nora Francis Henderson Secondary School, in male clothes with a layer of stubbled beard on her face. So the Z cups and the blonde wig are gone. And now the parents at both schools are like, what the hell? We went through all this last year at the school because we had to orient everything around you. And now the new schools, we're going through all this that we have to orient around you. The principal warned parents that this dude's presence, they're still calling her her. He shows up like a dude, stubble, none of the, and it's still her. The principal warned her presence, his presence might cause disruptions, informed parents of a new slew of safety protocols that has been instated to protect students. Why do you need to protect students?
Who hired him?
Right. Well, this
Just
is
tell
the point.
me, I'm a parent. I want to know who hired this Weirdo.
He goes by Kayla Lemieux, but whatever. This dude, the measures, having students enter and exit the building using assigned doors at entry and dismissal, locking exterior doors during school hours, only using the front main doors during school hours, and so on. So I'm not, and of course these daffy parents up there. I'm not worried about Kayla being a threat to my children. I'm more worried about Kayla's safety. Oh, really? You got a guy that's got apparently identity issues, and you're worried about his safety? Nobody's coming after this dude. Nobody cares.
Question?
Except to the extent that you orient your entire life and your children's education around a dude that's clearly confused or mentally ill or worse.
Years ago, some of the guys, the tool slingers back at the Tribune Tower, the normal people, guys who worked with tools for a living, we're all having breakfast at the Billy Goat, and this subject came up. Like, how would you hire a teacher like this? And my question was, would you think that person is mentally stable enough to teach children?
Right.
Now you can't even bring that up. Now it's not even part of the discussion, is it? But I just think that it wasn't mentally stable enough.
It was the Homer Township schools, which, under public pressure from parents who weren't informed, got informed, and they had this art teacher fired who admitted, his own writings to having had previous psychotic and violent episodes. And he's an elementary school art teacher who came from another neighboring district. Who
hired him?
Well, that's exactly it. And who's tolerating the people in charge of their
said,
schools?
We'll take care of this, honey. Yeah.
John in Florence, Wisconsin.
Well, the liberals, the leftists, the, now raging communists, we need a discussion. We need to talk. We need to be open. We need to, be respectful. And all of a sudden they come around, and now we're not supposed to talk about stuff. Don't notify parents. Keep it all. That should be the biggest red flag to everyone involved about how crooked and shady and perverted this whole thing is turned into.
Thanks, John. Grant.
John, real simple. Real simple. You vote Democratic. You're encouraging and supporting what Biden did to the border, where 100,000 people are dead of fentanyl, and you're supporting this. If you vote Democratic, that's how it works.
Well, and to your point too, it's you're not telling parents, and then you're providing a glide path for puberty blockers and God knows what else. You're cutting the parents out, and then you have a law like California where then when mom and dad finally do find out, hey, if you're not affirming, then we're going to send you over for DCFS review and going to have your kid taken away, which is exactly what's happening in California right now.
Jesus Christ.
Grant in Rockford.
Good morning, you two. John, always good to hear you. Reminds me of Don Wade back in the day. But,
and I'm like Roma.
Yes, yeah. No, not quite, Dan. Dan, you're not near as pretty.
That's true.
Yeah, thanks for correcting your pronouns on that freak in Canada. But anyway, that Randy Weingarten, that was just the most sinister doublespeak you've ever heard. They're talking about these kids that are confused and scared and whatnot, and they don't want to bring the parents in. Well, where the hell did the kids get the idea that they were going to be a boy wants to be a girl or something like that? They got it from the damn teachers. If it didn't come from home, this is all a new phenomenon. Kids aren't coming up with this on their own. It's being implanted, and it's one of the main reasons I keep my daughter at home and out of that cesspool known as Illinois Public Schools. Have a good one, guys.
Thanks, Grant.
Hey, Grant.
Corey, Woodlawn.
Hey, morning, Dan. Morning, Kaz.
Hey.
My question is, where are the men at?
They're in Dearborn, Michigan.
Our job is to protect and provide for our families. We've got to protect our children. This is enough. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Corey.
Where are the men? Corey brings it up. Where are they?
I don't know. We know where they're not. They're not in most of Chicago suburbs. Paul and Carrie.
John's got me laughing still at his choice of words, weirdo. I think you're being a little generous there, John.
Weirdo.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, if you got a child that's suffering with the curriculum and they're having a hard time either testing or performing in the classroom, should that not be shared with then the parents that added pressure that the parents would bring down on that child. So
Yes,
perhaps they shouldn't be discussing that with the parents.
Exactly right.
So
It's
we
up
should
to
let
them.
that child. So we should let the child then languish and just pass them, just push them through, let them languish and suffer because they have a hard time with the pressure that the school might discuss with the parents.
Thanks, Paul. I mean, it's maybe you would be informed about your students struggling with the curriculum. Maybe not. It's up to them. It's not up to you. Linda and Glen Ellen.
Yeah, hey guys. So just so people are aware, there is a policy in Glenbard D87 that actually allows the student to participate without the parent's knowledge. The policy actually says that for 5 weeks for like a psycho-emotional like consultation and courses and things like that. It's not just about testing. It's whether or not they're emotionally needing help with, I'm sure, transition or transgender without even talking to the parents. So I just want people to be aware. Look at the policies. It's policy 7250 in Glenbard D87. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for the call, Linda. Well, there's a place we know there aren't men, Glen Ellen, the Glenbard districts. I mean, it's just on and on and on. Yeah. Okay. Hey, let us know what happens with our kid. You're the experts.
When you decide,
they're the experts.
When you decide whether you're going to perform some irrevocable procedure upon my sons, I don't think so.
Coming up at 8:08, Trump rages. Now we check the headlines with Mike Scott.
A massive plant explosion and fire leaves several wounded in Decatur. Bears blown out by the Packers in Week 1. Cubs deny the D-backs a 4-game sweep while the White Sox fall to the Tigers. A cooler day ahead, morning rain followed by afternoon showers. WIND Chicago News Time is 8 o'clock.
Never forget. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. That's been a mantra since 9/11. That's at Ground Zero in New York City, where they're now reading the names of all the nearly 3,000 people killed in the terror attacks 22 years ago.
American 11, if you hear Boston Center, ident.
But instead of hearing from the pilot, September 11th, 2001, air traffic control got this.
We have some planes. Just stay quiet and you'll be okay. We're turning to the airport.
Then that plane crashed into the World Trade Center. 17 minutes later, a second plane hit another twin tower. By 10:30 that morning, both had come down.
The World Trade Center's collapsed. Building 2 has collapsed. Okay.
At the Pentagon, they're honoring the victims of the third plane terrorists crashed into that building outside Washington, D.C. A fourth plane was also hijacked that day.
It was 10:03 a.m. Eastern Time, 22 years ago, when United Flight 93 nosedived at almost 600 miles per hour into a Pennsylvania field at Shanksville, killing 33 passengers, 7 crew, and the 4 terrorists who targeted our nation's capital, though who were stopped by passengers who became the first to fight back against evil that day, and who are remembered today on now sacred ground.
That's Fox's Jeff Manasso. President Biden will commemorate 9/11 22 years later with U.S. troops at Joint Base Elmendorf in Alaska, where he's flying now after his trip to Vietnam following a G20 summit in India. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is headed to Russia to meet with and perhaps help President Vladimir Putin.
Kim is on a train headed to that meeting, which could happen as early as Tuesday. U.S. leaders released intelligence reports last week saying the two countries were arranging a meeting. The focus of that meeting could be on getting weapons from North Korea to Russia to help in the war in Ukraine.
That's Fox's Ryan Schmelz. They found more bodies in the rubble in Morocco after Friday's earthquake. It's up to nearly 2,500 people dead now. America's listening to Fox News.
62 degrees at 8:02 on AM 560, The Answer, and good morning. I'm Mike Scott. At least 10 have been injured following a large explosion and fire at a massive ADM soybean processing plant in central Illinois. First responders rushed to the Archer Daniels Midland East plant around 7:30 last night. Again, several employees were injured and transported. It's the third fire reported at ADM this year. Back in April, there was an explosion and fire and 3 injuries at ADM's West plant. The Bears gave up 28 second-half points in a 38-20 loss to the Green Bay Packers at Soldier Field. 2 former employees of the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services are scheduled to go on trial today over their handling of 5-year-old A.J. Friend's case in Crystal Lake before his death, Carlos Acosta and Andrew Polovin are charged with endangering the life of a child and reckless conduct. They were fired months after A.J.'s death in April of 2019. One man is dead and an investigation is underway after a hit-and-run crash in the West Garfield Park neighborhood. It happened in the 500 block of South Independence Boulevard Saturday evening. A man charged in the deadly Highland Park Parade shooting returns to court today. Robert Cremo III, the man prosecutors say opened fire on crowds in Highland Park in July of 2022, faces more than 100 charges. Cubs avoid the 4-game sweep and increase their lead for the second NL wildcard slot with a 5-2 win over the Diamondbacks at Wrigley Field. Sox just 5 hits and a 3-2 loss to the Tigers at Commemorating Park. Sky headed back to the playoffs after a 102-91 overtime win over Connecticut. The news a service of the Pride stores with 17 locations throughout Chicagoland that include Taco Urbano or Urban Counter restaurants. Stop by their newest location, the Pride of Kane County in St. Charles, corner of Kirk and Main. Pride stores, not your typical convenience store. 8:04 in a check of traffic and weather. Coming up after we check the AM 560 Business Beat. It is a service of Signature Bank. Visit signaturebank.bank for all your commercial banking needs. Now the latest from the Fox Business Network.
I'm Elizabeth McDonald, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Grocery delivery company Instacart is expected to start trading next week on the NASDAQ under the symbol CART. Instacart is marketing its stock launch to investors this week. The company plans to offer 22 million shares at an estimated price of $26 to $28 apiece, raising about $594 million. Instacart is formally called Maple Bear Inc., though the largest initial public offering of the year is expected to be British chip designer ARM. Meta Platforms is developing a new, more powerful artificial intelligence system. Facebook's parent company wants to create an AI system to be as capable as OpenAI, the Microsoft-backed startup that started ChatGPT. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosola, invested in you.
Charlie Kirk isn't having it.
The time for pad cake and footsie with the enemy is over. You see, the old Republican way of doing things said, wow, they're having meetings. I hope that doesn't materialize. We're not going to do that anymore. You, the grassroots, spoke up, and then they come out and they say, whoa, hold on. We're not thinking of getting Trump off the ballot because they backed off. You have to pre-bunk these things.
The Charlie Kirk Show, afternoons at 1, right before Sebastian Gorka at 3 on AM 560. The Answer.
Hey, business owners, are you wondering how to grow your business? Do you need cash flow and a ready source for financing? Well, Signature Bank can help. Hi, Mike Gallagher here to let you know that Signature Bank's loan decisions are made locally by a team who knows your name, cares about your business, and is invested in your success. When you need advice about your business or even have a question, Signature Bank is there to help. There are no handoffs or call centers. This is a team that wants to get to know you and your business. That's why Signature Bank in Chicago is my bank. That's right. I'm a customer. When I call, someone picks up the phone on the other end. And with Signature Bank, I can securely bank anywhere, anytime. Reach out to my friends at Signature Bank. Call 773-467-5630. That's 773-467-5630. Or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. Signaturebank.bank. Your business could be Signature Bank's next success story. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Imagine you're on the couch in your living room and one of your kids or grandkids excitedly pulls on your arm, urging you to come play. But instead of feeling exhausted, you practically jump off the couch. To make sure you're keeping up with them, it's crucial to fuel your body with whole fruits and vegetables. Unfortunately, most people don't get enough of these nutritious foods. That's where Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies can help. Balance of Nature's fruits and veggies provides your body with the additional nutrition it needs, helping you to embrace all of life's greatest moments with energy. Happy National Fruits and Veggies Month! Call 1-800-246-8751 or go to balanceofnature.com and sign up as a new preferred customer today to receive $35 off your first order with free shipping and our money-back guarantee. Go to balanceofnature.com or call 1-800-246-8751 and get this special offer by using discount code CHICAGO.
More than 38,000 U.S. veterans are experiencing homelessness across our nation. Through its Homeless Veteran Program, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation is providing housing assistance and services to U.S. veterans in need. Over 500 veterans helped last year, more than 2,000 to receive help this year. If you or someone you know is a veteran who is homeless or at risk of homelessness, complete the inquiry form at t2t.org or donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at t2t.org.
Attorney CPA Joe Cordell.
Divorce forces a father to focus on what's most important, his children. You may no longer be a husband, but you'll always be a dad. In the divorce process, this comes down to 3 key concerns: physical custody, decision-making, as well as financial support. Each of these is important, and it's important that you choose a lawyer that cares as much about these issues as you do.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Springfield area attorneys. 2815 Old Jacksonville Road, Suite 103, Springfield, Illinois, 62704. CordellCordell.com.
8:09, let's get an update on the roads. Team Hochberg Traffic Center time. Let's start on the Edens, where it's 41 minutes in Lake Cook Road to the junction. It is an hour and 27 minutes from O'Hare to the Burns Circle interchange, while the Kennedy outbound right now rests at 45 minutes out to the big airport. The Ike, an hour 7 from 390 to the old post office. Stevenson, it's an hour 7 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. Stevenson outbound jams solid from Ashland out to Pulaski. 36 out to the Tri-State. 45 minutes in and wet roads on the Dan Ryan inbound 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Route 53 stop-and-go accident with 2 left lanes blocked. This is on the southbound side of 53 between the Jane Addams, I-90, and Higgins. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast with Steve Williams.
Clouds and some rain to start us off this morning, and it'll be followed by a brief shower or two for the afternoon. The high today, 67. Clouds a shower tonight. It'll be partly cloudy late, though 57. Partly sunny for tomorrow, and the high at 69. I'm Steve Williams on AM 560, The Answer.
63 at O'Hare. Next news at 8:30. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Health Quest Radio with Dr. David Kolbaba. Saturday mornings at 11. Visit healthquestradio.com.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan, and in for Amy J this morning, John Cass, johncastnews.com.
Hey, Dan. Hey, everybody.
So, John, I saw that Bud Light sales are still down 30%, 6 months after the Dylan Mulvaney disaster. One marketing expert telling the New York Post that those drinkers of Bud Light are just lost to Anheuser-Busch forever, or InBev, I guess now. But I mean, they're not coming back to Bud Light is the point. 30% down, they're not coming back. Do you see? I mean, you're a cultural maven.
I'm also a beer drinker, but
you-
I used to like Stella, and then I jumped on.
Can't drink that.
I had I mocked it, so the lefties were all over me saying Stella is like Bud Light, so
Right.
I had to leave that.
You got go do like 3 Floyds.
Cancel
out of
me
Munster.
out, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, do you sense that there is a turning of the tide culturally, or are these just sort of conservative death throes? You know what I mean? The Jason Aldean, don't try that in a small town. The sort of revolutionary even though it's not partisan, the revolutionary aspect of the Oliver Anthony song that had so much appeal, like sticking it to the ruling class.
Sticking it to like the Nikki Haley's of the world,
Right. I mean, you have David Wells. David Wells, was a great pitcher. Probably just on the outside of Hall of Fame numbers. Probably just outside.
When he was with the White Sox, I don't think he was a Hall of Fame.
Well, 239 wins.
Yeah.
So just on the outside. But anyway, he gave this interview yesterday. There was tape over the Nike logo on his Yankee uniform because he's part of the Yankees organization now.
Right.
And he said, yeah, Nike sucks because it's woke, so super woke. And also this and it's interesting too because the conservative cultural expression is not just connected to boycotting woke companies. It's connected to something else. It's connected to work product. It's connected to this notion of meritocracy. Listen to David Wells. So David Wells has gotten into Raspberry. He's not drinking Bud Light anymore. He's covering up the Nike logo on his Yankees pinstripes. But listen to what he was really talking about in this interview where it was noticed that he had the Nike logo covered up, the swoosh covered up.
Well, I talked to Cash a couple weeks ago, and, I was on Twitter. I'm a smack talker, obviously.
Brian Cashman.
But, Cashman's getting beat up. I love Cash. He's doing his job, but he's got a boss and all that, so he's getting the blame for a lot of things. And I told, people on Twitter, it always seems that the GM, the managers, and all that are getting fired and getting blamed for it. And it's the players. If you're not doing the job out on the field, and I just, if I was a GM, I would start sending a message. I don't care who it was. If he's in the stink hole, pardon my French, if you can say that now, I don't know. But, send some a gun to AAA or AA and send them a wake-up call. Say, listen, this is what they did it to me. They did it to a lot of us back in the day, but you got to send them. I don't care how much money you're making. Send a message to them and let them go sit down there and think about it. That's what you have to do. But I think now they coddle them too much. They don't. They baby them, and they don't let them do what they do. It's up to your peers to make you better. I had guys get I remember Posada slam me against a pillar one day because Clemens just went out and gave up 10. I think I came out and gave up 8 the next day, and Posada was pissed. And he slammed me against a pillar and got in my face, but I respected it because he's like, you gave up, you done, and that pissed me off because I never get. You just get your ass kicked once in a while. But to me, that's what you don't see anymore. You don't see the guys getting in each other's face, and it's not a personal thing. You're here to win, and that's what they try to do, and that's what I think. Just seeing from my perspective, looking in, they don't have that kind of camaraderie anymore.
It was like the story you told about Fisk and Deion Sanders earlier in the show.
Right.
But
run out the ball.
Yeah, run out the pop fly. Right. Yeah, you always hustle. So, but see, that's what I'm talking about. It's not just the expression of conservatism in culture; it's what it's connected to. And maybe because
competency.
Maybe there's a resurgence of what David Wells is talking about. What Carlton Fisk was talking about when he chewed out Deion Sanders. Maybe there's a resurgency in that ethic that leads to the resurgency of small c conservatism in culture. In other words, conserving sort of the American meritocratic principles. Do you see that? Or am I hoping, am I over extrapolating from the anecdotal? 312-642-5600, turnkey.pro answer line. 64636DA, turnkey.pro text line. You've got Nike store, by the way. Speaking of Nike, it's not going to reopen in Northeast Portland. We're reimagining Nike's retail space, permanently closing our location at 2650 Northeast Martin Luther King Drive Boulevard.
Reimagining.
Chris Rock has a bid on that address, by the way. Yeah. Considering future locations and so on and so forth. So, yeah, Nike is getting mugged by reality. Phil Knight has been mugged by reality. That's why he actually backed a Republican for governor of Washington. Didn't happen, but he changed his stripes briefly. But all these, it's not just, it's Sound of Freedom. This is, and again, this is not like partisan. It's not Republican. It's not even ideological conservative. It's just the principles of a free society. Sound of Freedom, which unbelievably is a bigger box office hit than Indiana Jones. It's also now the #1 movie in Latin America. That's not a conservative movie. It's not a Republican movie. It's a movie against the human trafficking of children, for God's sakes.
Wait a minute.
Is this complicated?
But Rolling Stone calls it a movie for brain-dead dads.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Right.
So...
But I mean, but my point is to say
this
that
conservative revival, I think, is wishful.
Yeah.
But as long as there's two things, as long as you have voting by mail, and I leave it up to you to determine whether or not Republicans are ready to combat Democrats in that vote by mail field, because I don't know how the ups and downs of it work. As long as that continues, and as long as they're going to use abortion as the stir to, the straw to stir the drink for the election, I don't know about what, if anything else matters.
I disagree with that. Other things matter, and those things matter too, and they have to be addressed. But it's a multivariate equation, and I do think that people standing up and expressing who they are and what they believe, like Jordan Love did, like you saw Coco Gauff do over the weekend after she won the U.S. Open. Like
drinking in the moment or praying.
Yeah, right. Like David Wells did there, really talking about the ethic of the club and the ethic of sports in general, professional, but it's not limited to professional. I think it does have an impact. Now, does it completely change the trajectory? No. But can it start to bend it? Can it start to call into question the way that the ethos by which we're operating these institutions? Maybe some people start to question. I don't know.
There was a thing called the Yankee Way. I don't even know if it exists now.
Well, right. But I mean, again, the overnight success of an Oliver Anthony song, the reaction to the reaction to Jason Aldean, the reaction to the reaction to Sound of Freedom.
It speaks to the yearning for that you're mentioning. It speaks directly to the yearning in the American heart for that type of thing. Now, whether it'll happen or not, I don't know. But we obviously see a hunger, we see a hole in our hearts, and that's why people are trying to fill it. And they know that to fill it the right way.
I think you have to be trained. I think you're right. I think it's innate, and I think you have to be trained to grow up to want to be some soy boy, or some somebody who's gluing themselves to the tennis courts or the basketball courts at professional sporting events. I think you have to be trained to be that ignorant, that listless, that feckless, that phony. So
you're celebrating.
That's what I'm saying. I know you're rewarded for it, but that's my point. That's part of the training.
Yes.
But I mean, when it comes down to it, when you hear athletes at any level listen to what David Wells just say, do you think anybody disagrees?
No.
No
ball player.
Not anybody wants to be good.
No ball player that I ever played with in my life would disagree. Neither would you. I mean, any kid you played ball with. You want to be better, you need teammates to make you better.
And hold you to account. You're accountable to each other. I mean, that's how it really works.
It's not politics.
John in Wakanda.
Yeah, hi guys. Welcome back, Dan.
Hey.
I don't know if anyone noticed that Bud Light is now the official beer of the NFL. They snuck that in during the commercials yesterday, and also they were running new Bud Light commercials, and then the Modelo commercial showed the crowd jumping up and down in slow motion. Some Latino faces in there saying Modelo for fighters. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I just want to tell you the 5 points on the Democratic Party: abortion, racism, trans issues, Gen 6/Trump, and guns. There you go. They're the 5 they're going to run on. But yeah, they're trying to. I'm wondering also, when did Bud Light do that contract? Was it in place before, or was it just they said we're going to pay whatever it takes to be the beer of the NFL?
Thanks for the call, John. Well, I mean,
I'm not going to drink it. I don't care what they call it.
well, right, but that's the point. Is that the attempt to this new marketing campaign that was evident over the weekend during the football games? It's not working. It's not having an impact, and they can be the official beer of the NFL all they want. It's not going to change anything. In part because there are substitutes like Modelo.
Right, and Modelo is about fighters. It's not about Dylan. What's her name? It's his name.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and and that's that. The whole thing when
it's not Rachel Levine's favorite beer.
When you have close substitutes, it's about brand equity, and they destroy their brand equity, and you don't easily rebuild that. Tim and Rochelle.
How you doing, Dan?
Hey.
Until Republicans do a better job of just telling people what a wonderful life we have as conservatives from the womb to the tomb, literally, then it's really going to be the bad people. Evil is going to win. And I mean, let's face it, anybody that is a happy person through life has lived that life on conservative values 99% of the time. I'm certainly well past my 50s and with the experience of life to know that the people that I've interacted with in life have a conservative lifestyle.
Oh, we lost him.
To the tomb.
Yeah, we have to explain. Yeah, thanks for the call, Tim. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, but the left has opened itself up to a lot of ridicule, and people don't like to be ridiculed. And point of fact, as has been established through study, most people would rather be physically harmed than publicly ridiculed.
That's why we have the Mutza.
Well, exactly. But that public so when the left is being publicly ridiculed, but that's advancing the flag for the sensible.
Right.
So there was this moment we were talking about it. We mentioned it earlier. Mads Mikkelsen, who's a Danish actor. Okay. You'd recognize him if you saw him. He was the antagonist in Casino Royale, the Bond movie with the bleeding eye. The Pusher movies is where he got his break. Arctic, Polar. I mean, it's really good actor.
Good actor.
So
and in a Western, a great Western.
Yeah.
Forgot the name of it,
yeah. He's got a new movie called The Promised Land. The movie is set in Denmark in the 1750s.
All right.
And they're doing a presser on the movie, and here's the question he gets.
So you're a little bit into it. This is a cast and a Danish production, which is entirely Nordic. It therefore has some lack of diversity, you would say, as also new rules are implied in Hollywood.
What are you on to?
Sorry, but
from the get-go.
From the get-go.
What are you on to? And he just laughs it off. Yeah, it's set in Denmark in the 18th century. Where's the diversity? I mean, Shakespeare. Where is the diversity? Right. But here's the thing. So on the one hand, there's
That's
like
ridiculous.
the knee-jerk reaction from Mads Mikkelsen, who's obviously a sensible guy, is just to laugh because it's so preposterous. What do you want me to do? It's a period piece in the 18th century in Denmark. I mean, okay. Should be self-explanatory. It's not. Not to those who want to rewrite history. But listen now, when there was a little bit more time, a little bit later, the producer on the film, Nicolaj Arcel, listen, he plays the game.
We do have a big plot line, about a girl of color who is being subjected to racism.
Okay.
And it's just a historical,
exactly.
How it was in the 1750s.
That's also.
There was one person of color in the entire country.
I'm saying these are green shoots. I'm not saying we're overwhelming the left at this point.
Ridiculous. All right, but one of my favorite romantic novels is a 3-volume novel called "With Fire and Sword."
Oh yeah,
Sienkiewicz. Yeah. And I've always wanted that to be made into a great movie, like a film. It's about Cossacks versus the Poles. The Orthodox are the evil ones, Cossacks, and the Poles are the virtuous ones.
Is there a Sienkiewicz relative we can call to make sure that they the the representations are properly diverse.
I just wonder where's the African Americans to be like leading Polish magnates in a film like that.
You can't qualify for Best Picture if you don't meet the diversity guidelines. That's in effect.
No, but what's his name? The
Not
guy
that
who
it
got
matters.
the guy who slapped Chris Rock. What's his name?
Will Smith.
Will Smith. How could he win an Oscar in a movie about Polish history if he can't play a noble?
Jim and Lyle.
Hey, good morning, Dan. John, you're sounding good.
Hey.
I'm glad to hear it. So if the vice president takes the time to celebrate 50 years of hip-hop at her residence over the weekend, we truly are living in two separate universes as far as culture. And I think that proves the point.
Well, I mean, I like hip-hop. There's nothing wrong with hip-hop as part of the art of culture. There's a big problem with watching Kamala dance to hip-hop, which was painful to watch, especially with that fupa. She needs to wear those pantsuits because...
Wait, what is a fupa?
Front upper pelvic area.
Was she shaking it?
Yeah, and it's
like shaking that
she's
thing.
Got a muffin top is probably more familiar, but it's really
Grandma,
really
sit down, Grandma.
I'd rather be on that Delta flight than in Kamala's Harris's shaking her fupa.
People should know. Wasn't Dan Proft something of a break dancer back in the day?
I was.
Right? Right?
I was. No,
Can't touch this. Can't touch this.
Yeah, I was a little well, I was part. I prefer Hammer to MC Hammer.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, Turn This Mother Out was my favorite Hammer song. But people remember Third Base, Tribe Called Quest, Lost My Wallet in San Jacinto. Oh, we play Me, Myself, and I all the time here, De La Soul.
I can't wait to see a rendition of Shake That.
Obviously, Run DMC, Rev Run, and Run DMC. Yeah, I mean that's fine. That's great. It's part of a rich tapestry of American culture. It's the values. It's not necessarily what types of music you want. That's what we're talking about.
Me, I like 12-string guitar and a harmonica.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're from the big band era.
I'm from the country music era, from the balladeer era.
George Jones.
I'd say
Waylon Jennings.
Waylon Jennings, yeah. Yeah.
I didn't take you for a Waylon Jennings fan.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer.
Your show keeps me alive during the week. There's nobody I'd rather listen to between 5 and 9 in the morning than you guys.
On AM 560, The Answer.
I talk openly about money with my kids. It's important they learn at a young age.
I make sure to always give back. It's how I remember where I came from.
I put what I can towards my retirement every month. Every little bit counts.
At Thrivent, we believe money is a tool, not a goal. Driven by a higher purpose at our core for more than 100 years, we offer expert financial advice that starts with what's important to you. Visit Thrivent.com to learn more.
Would you go to court without a lawyer when the other guy is lawyered up? Or are you going to go it alone and learn law and procedure as you go? When you have an insurance claim for your home or business, it's the same thing.
This is Dan Lights from Crosscom. We inspect your property, file your claim, negotiate the damages, and maximize your settlement with your insurance company.
Insurance companies will send out their inspectors that work for them, get paid by them, and represent them. Not you.
If we complete the repairs approved by your insurance company, our service is free. Crosscom Public Adjusters has turned denied claims into approved claims. We've also increased insurance claims anywhere from 23 to 1,000%, and we could do the same for you. We are licensed by the Department of Insurance and work in Illinois, Northwest Indiana, and Southern Wisconsin. Crosscom Public Adjusters, 630-871-5500. Online at crosscominc.com. That's crosscominc.com. Crosscom, building trust for over 20 years.
AM 560, The Answer.
Can't touch this.
There it is. I think
that's it. Come on, Dan.
A front upper. It's either front upper pelvic area or front upper pubic area. Scholars hotly debate this in terms of what FUPA stands for.
I'm looking at Mike, and I'm like at a loss.
We're gonna have to check. We're gonna have to call the National Archives and get back to our listeners on that. All right, coming up at 8:38, Steve Cortez, advisor for the pro DeSantis PAC, Never Back Down. We'll talk border security, and, of course, presidential politics at 8:38 with Steve Cortez. Now we check the headlines.
8:32, 62 degrees, rain showers. At least 10 have been injured following a large explosion and fire at a massive ADM soybean processing plant on the northeast side of Decatur. It happened around Sunday night at 7:30. Bears gave up 28 second-half points and a 38-20 loss to Green Bay at Soldier Field. Moroccan soldiers and aid teams in trucks and helicopters battling to reach remote mountain towns devastated by a monstrous earthquake that killed more than 2,400. About 150,000 U.S. auto workers are set to go on strike Thursday if GM, Ford, and the company that was Dodge Chrysler, now known as Stellantis, fail to meet their demands for big pay hikes and a restoration of some concessions. 22 years later, nearly as many Fire Department of New York members have died from 9/11 related illnesses as those who lost their lives on that fateful day. Kristen Marks has more.
Just days before the anniversary of the terrorist attacks, the FDNY revealed 53 members who died of illnesses related to their rescue and recovery efforts to the World Trade Center Memorial Wall.
These 43 individuals possessed bravery and dedication. They honored their oath.
Chief of Department John Hodgins said it was the second largest group of names added to the wall since it was created in 2011, and the total number is expected to only keep rising. The FDNY lost 343 members on 9/11. Kristen Marks, NBC News Radio, New York.
2 former employees of the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services are scheduled to go on trial today over their handling of 5-year-old A.J. Friend's case in Crystal Lake before his death in April of 2019. And the man charged in the deadly Highland Park Parade shooting returns to court today. Robert Cremo III, the man who prosecutors say opened fire on crowds in Highland Park in July of 2022, faces more than 100 charges. Cubs avoid the 4-game sweep and increase their lead for the second National League wildcard slot with a 5-2 win over the Diamondbacks at Wrigley Field. White Sox, 3-2 losers to the Tigers in Detroit. A Monday night matchup caps the NFL season, Jets and Bills. The News is a service of Protect and Grow with Tim Stearns. Saturdays at noon, enjoy weekly discussions to a secure retirement. And a check of traffic and weather on the way next on AM 560.
Gas prices are still too high, and AM 560 and the Pride Stores want to help ease your pain at the pump. Every Thursday morning in September, we're giving away $50 gift cards from the Pride Stores to the first 56 customers who pump at least 5 gallons of gas between 7 and 8 a.m. at a specially selected location. To find out where, listen to Chicago's Morning Answer at 6:30 a.m. on Thursday morning. Then show up, fill up, and you could win a $50 gift card courtesy of the Pride Stores at AM 560. The Answer.
Hope Wins is a nonprofit organization dedicated to share hope and end the devastation addiction brings to families. Visit our website, hopewins7.org. We present to high schools, middle schools, and organizations our son Keenan's story of addiction, his death, and the ripple effect it has on the whole family. It is our family's hope to convey eliminating stigma, the power of decision-making, the power of hope. We discuss that going to a drug and alcohol rehab is no different than someone going to a cancer center in hope of a cure. They both want to get well. We talk about the truth of heroin and addictive drugs. We talk about mental health through a tattoo of Keenan's, that there are some things we need to accept, things we have to have the courage to change, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keenan's story in his own handwriting is at hopewins7.org.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 40-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term life insurance may only cost you about $100 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-352-9239. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Providers help thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-352-9239. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-352-9239. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. For affordable term life insurance, call 800-352-9239. 800-352-9239 or biglou.com.
A great smile can make you feel happy and confident. So when you consciously conserve your teeth, that glowing smile will show through. At Best Dental Group, Doctors Economos, Gavalis, and their staff are ready to help you create that perfect look or maintain the one you have now. Along with general dentistry, Best Dental Group is a multidisciplined practice with an orthodontist, periodontist, and prosthetic specialists on site. They use the newest breakthroughs in dental technology, such as titanium implants, Invisalign clear braces, and laser treatments. Don't let fear get in the way. They can recommend sedation to make your experience as comfortable as possible. Best Dental Group is located in historic downtown Bartlett and is a multilingual office. Call 630-830-4930. That's 630-830-4930. Or visit bestdental.org. Best Dental Group, sharing your conservative values and helping you to conserve your teeth.
This hourly segment is brought to you by ServPro, the #1 choice in cleanup and restoration. Visit servpro.com.
Hochberg Traffic Center Time is a service of Blindster.com, offering custom-made blind shades and shutters at prices less than big box retailers. And right now, save 50% off any order during their Labor Day sale at Blindster.com. Inbound Edens, 43 Lake Cook Road to the junction, the Kennedy 87, O'Hare into the Burns Circle interchange. The Kennedy outbound is 45 minutes from the Burns Circle out to the big airport. The Ike on the inbound side right now is running at 73 minutes from 390 to the old post office. Stevenson, 90 minutes inbound from 355 into DuSable Lakeshore Drive. The outbound jammed up solid as well to the Tri-State. Dan Ryan inbound, 41, 95th into the Burns Circle interchange. Veterans solid northbound 355 between the Boughton Toll and the Reagan interchange. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next. AM 560 Weather Center forecast. A cooler day ahead. Morning rain, afternoon shower, high 67. 62 right now at O'Hare. Your next news update is at 9. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next on AM 560 The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and John Cass. JohnCassNews.com. He's in for Amy today.
And the Chicago Way podcast. So listen today because we're dropping the new one today.
Who's featured on the new one?
Paul Vellis.
Paul Vellis. Congratulate him.
Your eyebrows almost flew off your head.
Congratulate him on the wonderful race that he ran. Hello. Hi-yo.
Chicago's hurting.
Yeah.
What can I say?
Nancy Pelosi, at the tender age of 83, has decided it's not time to withdraw from public service. Number one, she has more to give.
Okay, can there be anything slimier than this woman?
Yes.
Okay. Help me.
We'll start there, and we'll go. Go in increasing degrees of sliminess. Nancy Pelosi also owes it to her constituents. Right. She's like Judge Schmales. She didn't want to send young men to the gas chamber, but He felt he owed it to them. That's the same thing here.
And the needs that our city has right now really call for me to stay another term. I had the privilege of representing San Francisco for a long time, and they have given me the latitude to serve as speaker, as leader for over 20 years, and whip as well. Visit 87 countries, serve 30 years on the Intelligence Committee, all of those things. But at the same time, being central to my service was representing my district. In gratitude to them for that, I have agreed to stay on another term.
She's agreed to stay on another term.
So
is there going to be an election, or is it just agreement between her and these unnamed constituents?
She's just nodding her head. She's moving on.
I'm staying on. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So there's no penalty for screwing up your entire congressional district, like a city like San Francisco, destroying it. It's just like Tony Preckwinkle and Kim Foxx aren't suffering anything from what they've done.
We need them.
Right.
San Francisco needs Nancy Pelosi. No. And California needs Gavin Newsom.
Of course.
Which is why he is not running for president. Stop postulating that he is, for gosh sakes.
Filing deadlines haven't passed. President Biden doesn't run. Why shouldn't we consider you a likely candidate?
I think the vice president is naturally the one lined up, and the filing deadlines are quickly coming to pass. And I think we need to move past this notion that he's not going to run. President Biden is going to run, and we're looking forward to getting him reelected. I think there's been so much wallowing in the last few months and hand-wringing in this respect.
Speaking of wallowing.
But we're gearing up for the campaign. We're looking forward to it.
But you hear these calls privately. What do you tell these donors who are wallowing in this?
Time to move on. Let's go.
And am I supposed to interpret that comment about the vice president that if for some reason the president chose not to run at this point,
well, that's the
everybody rallies around her?
It's the Biden-Harris administration. Maybe I'm a little old-fashioned.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm a little old-fashioned about presidents and vice presidents. I was a lieutenant governor, so I'm a little subjective.
Yeah.
Oh, you stop.
Just go have a burger at the French Laundry. That's all.
Yeah. So Gavin Newsom's not running for president. I keep telling people I think it's more likely than not that Biden's going to be the nominee. And, of course, Gavin Newsom wants Biden or Harris because
he doesn't have the guts to remove
also, too, it's like
Democratic Party doesn't have the guts.
It's in his interest to see one of them lose so he can run in 4 years.
Yeah.
Especially Harris if Biden were to bow out. For more, by the way, just in case you didn't catch it, we did go from slimy to slimier to slimiest. Slimy, Nancy Pelosi. Slimier, Gavin Newsom. Slimiest, Chuck Todd, that yapping little terrier who asked Gavin Newsom that question.
With the Julius Caesar haircut. I love that. You're a bald man. Admit it, okay? Combing your hair forward. What a loser.
For more on octogenarians and oligarchs, please be joined by Steve Cortez, advisor for the pro Ron DeSantis back, never back down. He writes at stevecortez.substack. That's his Substack, Steve Cortez, his name. Steve, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Hey, good morning, John and Dan. Appreciate it.
So these octogenarians, Tucker Carlson was on with Portnoy. They interviewed him last week, and they both agreed that neither Trump nor Biden should be running. They're too old, and even though Trump's just still a septuagenarian, it's people in their 70s and 80s, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Donald Trumps, the Joe Bidens, the Chuck Grassley's, the Dianne Feinsteins, the Mitch McConnells, they all need to go away. What's your view?
Right. That is certainly my view. I think it is long past time that there is an age limit on political service. And look, I'd love term limits as well, but that's clearly never going to happen with exit, except for perhaps a constitutional convention or convention of the states. But the members of Congress are never going to limit themselves. I think it is possible, though, with the right leadership, particularly from the White House, if we elect the right president in 2024. That they would be willing to establish an age limit, in part for self-interest, because they would like leadership positions both over the houses and as a whole and of the committees, and so they might be willing to punt some of those elderly folks. But what prompted me to write this article, Octogenarians and Oligarchs, is watching Mitch McConnell, who has now frozen up completely 2 times in front of
He's fine.
Just recent weeks.
He's fine. He says he's fine.
He's fine, according to Republican senators, right?
Yes, he's fine.
He's just fine. who knows what's going on off camera, right? And by the way, I'm not
Fetterman.
blaming him or making fun of him for his medical condition. Clearly he cannot control. It's clear he can't control what's going on. And I realize that there are people in their 80s who function extremely well, right? But those are the exceptions that prove the rule. Generally, people in their 80s, if they haven't already started to experience cognitive decline, it is a risk that can happen in a nanosecond for anybody of those ages. And I believe, looking at the landscape of America, how many decisions are being made for us by people like Joe Biden, Mitch McConnell, George Soros, Nancy Pelosi, people who all of whom I just named are 80 years plus, do not have our best interests at heart, and moreover, in many cases, are clearly cognitively impaired. I think we have to be grown-ups and take a look at this situation and say, for our country, this does not make sense.
All right, Steve, you just made the list. You just made the list. You just stepped into it. Donald Trump, age 77, is challenging everybody and anybody. He's challenging Rupert Murdoch, his kids, all his ex-wives to take mental acuity tests. He tweeted out that a few years ago, I was the only one to agree to acuity tests, and I aced it. The Wall Street Journal, Biden, all the Bidens, all the Murdochs, Steve Cortez, challenged them all to acuity tests. Also, he wants to make it sort of a biathlon. We can also throw in some physical activity. I just won the senior club championship at a big golf club with many very good players. To do so, you need strength, accuracy, touch, and above all, mental toughness. Ask Brett Baer, a very good golfer. All right, so all comers, Steve, including you. So the only way you get Trump out of the race is you beat him on a mental acuity test.
Short swords in the arena. That's what I say.
Yes.
Steve?
Listen, clearly Donald Trump does not seem his age. Okay, and I say this as somebody who is right now campaigning against him in the primary on behalf of Ron DeSantis. Right. Who is, in my view, the most vibrant 44-year-old young leader in America. But looking at Donald Trump, I'll be the first to concede somebody who I worked for many years, advocated fiercely on his behalf. He does not seem his age. But even for him, again, I would make the point that if he were elected, he would end up being president of the United States into his 80s. And I think that is a risky proposition for the country, even if he now seems to be fine. And clearly, the current occupant of the Oval Office is not fine. The current Senate minority leader, is clearly not fine. Dianne Feinstein, we're talking about Nancy Pelosi. What about her colleague, her radical dinosaur colleague from the Bay, Dianne Feinstein, who is 90 years old? I mean, Nancy Pelosi seems like a spring chicken compared to Feinstein, who is clearly not just impaired, but catatonic.
Yeah, her daughter has power of attorney over her now. I mean, it's remarkable.
Yeah, and yet she represents 39 million Californians. I mean, are they being properly represented? And so, again, I think that term limits would be wonderful, but let's be honest, it's just not happening. I think an age limit is possible politically, and I think given the fact that our country, sadly, is increasingly being ruled by dinosaurs who are not just radical in their politics, but also impaired in their abilities, in their physical and mental abilities. I believe that this should be a priority for the next president, and I think it's actually achievable.
I like that two rival wings of the Republican Party, the DeSantis wing and the Nikki Haley wing, can come to an agreement on this because she also supports this idea, as you know. But I need to ask you something about her. I'm a little concerned since this is 9/11, and I supported the war in Iraq and President Bush and all that when that was going on, only to be disabused by a sergeant of Marines who said, "Mr. Cass, can we have coffee?" And then he came by and told me about the 5 tours he had and how the whole thing was BS from the beginning and we should never have been in Iraq.
Right.
I think about Nikki Haley being lionized by Fox News, being lionized by the editors at the National Review as the reasonable, safe, responsible Republican. Nikki Haley, they love her. And I wonder what you think of it in terms of 9/11 and the lessons that we learned about the neocons and our young people who were and the blood and the treasure that we lost.
Sure. John, I'm glad you bring this up, and it is appropriate that we talk about it, on this solemn day, right? Because instead of going and smashing the Taliban and then leaving Afghanistan or leaving shortly after, we ended up mired in a 2-decade conflict there that did not serve American interests, that we exited with tremendous dishonor and tragedy. And in addition, we started an incredibly needless and war in Iraq that was frankly irrelevant to the causes of this day. 9/11. And so it's important that we assess current politicians, Nikki Haley included, who I believe is a card-carrying member of the Washington war machine. She is in favor of intervention and escalation all over the world, including in Ukraine. And if you look at her biography, the little Chicago tie-in here, she was on the board of directors of Boeing, major defense contractor. So she is in every way, both in terms of her agenda as well as her record and experience. She is somebody who believes in funding the messes of intervention and war making that have unfortunately dominated Washington and the Washington establishment, Republican and Democrat, for the last 2 decades. And our movement of patriotic populism is the exact opposite of that approach. Insists on an American foreign policy of realism and restraint. This current escalation in Ukraine, which is not just supported by Biden, but also by most Republicans on Capitol Hill, is to me one of the riskiest ventures in probably since invading Iraq in terms of American security, and perhaps even more risky in some ways because we're countering, of course, the largest nuclear power on Earth in terms of number of missiles, which is Russia. And over a regional conflict, a regional ethnic conflict, 6,000 miles away that involves, in my view, no American interest. Nikki Haley, to me, is disqualified on that issue alone. She is a warmonger. She's part of the Washington war machine. She believes in a continuation of the failed policies of the foreign policy establishment of Washington, D.C. And for that reason, I think she represents an old and thankfully discarded wing of the Republican Party as far as the electorate goes, at least.
Trump and DeSantis were both in Ames for the Iowa State game. Trump was flipping burgers. I don't know if this report is true, but apparently he only had 5 buns and 2 burger patties, and yet he fed a crowd of 5,000. Is that true? So here's the real question. So if DeSantis does not win Iowa, is he done?
No, I don't think so. Listen, Ron DeSantis has the support, the capital, to continue running in this race for some time. Obviously, we intend on winning Iowa, and that is task number 1. Task number 2 is to win New Hampshire. But I do not believe that if he fails in task 1, it means that the entire race is over. You mentioned earlier about dissatisfaction with a Trump-Biden rematch. On most polling, roughly 2/3 of Americans, as much even into the 70s percentages, do not want that rematch. It is a rematch that nobody wants, and yet it seems at this moment to be inevitable. Well, the answer to that, the antidote, the solution to preventing that rematch and to not having 2 incredibly disliked 80-year-olds or close to 80-year-olds running against each other, the answer is Ron DeSantis is the most vibrant, young, dynamic, conservative governor in all of America. So
I don't know.
We intend to win Iowa. But
how do you get that message? How do you get that message through with when they're loving when Fox News and the National Review are leading the charge to love Nikki Haley, love her, love her, love her, love her up, love her up.
Look, we didn't want Rocky V, but we got it. I'm just saying. You may not want the rematch, but you're gonna. I
didn't want Godfather 3 either, but we got it.
No, I mean to John's points. I mean, DeSantis is now not like a clear and away second place candidate right now. He's fighting for second place, and then whoever's there, if they can establish some separation, then they've got 20, 30, 40 points to go to get to Trump.
Yeah. Listen, I'll be the first to say we have work to do, clearly. And this is an unusual, really unprecedented, in my view, situation where both, the corporate media, the liberal media is incredibly anti-DeSantis because they've seen how effective he is in Florida. And they know that, unlike Trump, it won't just be bluster. He will actually implement the policies he's talking about as president of the United States. So they fear him. But at the same time, he is largely the enemy of the establishment conservative media who wants Trump because they need him for clicks, because they fear his wrath if they cross him. So it's an interesting situation and a tough one, frankly, for Ron DeSantis, where he is fighting against not just the liberal press, but against the conservative media as well. And so given that, it's a challenge for us to get our message out, but we are. And again, we have the resources to do so. We have the candidate to do so, somebody who, again, reflecting on 9/11, he's the only veteran in the race, in the entire race, somebody who was motivated by 9/11 itself, to take his Harvard law degree, not to Wall Street or to a fancy New York law firm to make a lot of money, but instead to the United States Navy to serve and to get deployed with the SEALs to Iraq. So I think he's got an incredible story to tell. We do have the resources to tell it, and we're going to continue to work. We're going to earn it. We're going to continue to show up at every debate, respect the voters of Iowa and every state, and earn this thing. But that doesn't mean it will be an easy road. No. Steve
Cortez, advisor to the pro, Ron DeSantis back, never back down. He writes at Steve Cortez, that's with an S, stevecortez.substack. Steve, thanks as always.
You bet. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And he joined us on the Turnkey.pro answer line.
Before you see it on TV, share it on Facebook, or read about it in the paper. Hear it here first. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Hi, I'm Martha Stewart. Every year, more than 4 million pets enter shelters here in the United States. My friends at American Humane have been helping animals since 1877. The goal is to ensure that pets have a safe shelter, especially during natural disasters. Adopting a shelter pet allows shelters to help more animals awaiting care. Please consider adopting today and take some time to learn more about American Humane's other work at americanhumane.org.
How far will the left go to win 2024? Will they send out more stimulus checks or give away trillions more to left-wing groups? The simple truth is they don't care if your retirement is eroded down to a fraction of its value. They just want to win. Hi, Stephen K. Bannon. I want to encourage you to diversify your 401k or IRA out of paper assets and into a physical gold IRA. And the only company I recommend for gold IRAs is conservative-owned Birch Gold Group. To learn more, text the word HEDGE to 989898 to get their free info kit on gold IRAs. Do this now before Democrats have a chance to legislate away your life savings. Get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting HEDGE to the number 989898. There's nothing to buy and no obligation at all. So use your agency. Take action now. Text the word HEDGE to the number 989898.
Paid for by Birch Gold Group.
AM 560. The Answer.
John Cass, johncassnews.com. There is not more than this. The show is over, but we appreciate you coming in, John. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. johncassnews.com. Get a subscription if you haven't already. And we'll look forward to seeing everybody on the North Shore this Sunday, the 17th. Now we turn it over to Mike for the headlines.
A massive plant explosion and a fire leave several wounded in Decatur. Bears